Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. If you would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Hey, Ms. Riska, can we please have the roll call?
Mayor Taylor,
Here.
Broski,
Here.
Koski,
Present.
Mr. Radke,
Present.
Schmidt,
Present.
Mr. Gomez,
Here.
Mrs. Yergo.
Present.
Thank you, Council. We need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the agenda.
Support.
Mr. Mayor?
Been moved and supported. Mr. Radke.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move item M off the consent agenda and make it consideration item A, and then renumber A, B, and C, E, C, and D.
Okay, M will become 8A, and everything following that under 8 will go in order. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First item on our agenda tonight is a report from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple items for presentation on my report tonight. But before I get to those, I wanted to introduce a very special guest who would like to address Mayor and City Council and audience, and that is State Senator Michael Weber. Yes.
Yep, right there, Senator Weber. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate having you and look forward to hearing your update.
Yeah, thank you. I thank you, Mayor Taylor and City Manager Vanderpool and City Council. Plan on trying to do this periodically. And again, Michael Weber, I serve as the state senator for the western portion of Sterling Heights in District 9. I have a background, local government background, just like you guys do. 7 years as city councilman in Rochester Hills and then 6 years in the State House. So serving my first term in the Senate. Since our meeting in January, when you invited all the legislators, obviously we took a lot of the items that you guys discussed to heart and have been working on that in a bipartisan way. In particular, worked with Senator Bueno and Rep. Shannon on House Bill 4084, passed the House and Senate. Bill would allow for an existing tax exemption to be claimed. We're still working through that, but it has passed and cleared both the House and the Senate. We were also able to pass an extension of the transformational brownfield legislation already in place. This legislation could be helpful in terms of the redevelopment of the Lakeside Mall project and some of the projects in the city. So I think that was a win. And then also supported legislation that would allow the city to set up a land bank should you have interest in doing so. They looked at doing that for cities of a certain size and townships of a certain size back in the spring. Obviously, we passed the budget, which is going into effect October 1st of this year. That passed in June. As you know by now, cities, villages, and townships saw a 7% increase in revenue sharing, 5% designated as ongoing, 2% as one-time appropriation. We also had constitutional revenue sharing increase by a total of about $3.4 million from where we were in the May 2023 Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference. Overall, we appropriated more money into the state rainy day fund. We paid down over $500 million in debt on the MIPSER's pension fund, appropriated over $1.6 billion in federal grants for increasing broadband access, over $500 million to invest in drinking water and wastewater improvement projects, and finally, more than $215 million is appropriated for local road repair and local bridge repair. Of course, we got a $1 million recreational grant for the city of Sterling Heights, and then the $40 million for the Macomb County intake facility, which obviously helps the entire county to construct a new central intake and mental health unit, among other upgrades, allowing the county jail to provide better mental and physical health outcomes for those who come in contact with the criminal justice system. And then most recently, we just want to talk about the Revenue Sharing Trust Fund project. I know Councilwoman Ziarko, who's the chair of MML, is very familiar with this, but we do have a bipartisan package in both the House and the Senate to try to create better certainty for our revenue sharing system that we all, work through. I will say that at the local government committee in the House, just last week, the House versions of the bills from Rep. O'Neill and Rep. Tisdale passed the committee unanimously. And so we will continue to watch that and monitor that, but that's a positive development out of that committee on those issues. To that, you know, in that vein, you know, myself and all the sponsors of that package in the House and the Senate, we consist of or make up the as co-chairs of the MML Local Government Caucus, and so I'm proud to do that and be a part of that as well. And then lastly, just for residents here and at home, just want to leave a couple contact information. For more information, to sign up for our monthly e-news, you can visit senatormichaelweber.com or call our office at 517-373-0994. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weber. Senator Weber, appreciate your update.
Thank you.
And Mayor, I also wanted to thank the senator and our entire legislative coalition. I think has been incredibly helpful this year, and certainly Senator Weber's no exception. Special thanks on the transformational brownfield, which is going to help the Lakeside project, which is a mega project. It's highly complicated, and the transformational brownfield gives us one more tool in the toolbox. So thank you again, Senator Weber, and thank you also for your accessibility. It's nice to be able to contact you at any time and connect and collaborate. Okay, Mayor, moving on, I wanted to inform you and the City Council we have exciting news that the city just received another grant. This is a $500,000 grant. We're notified of this last Thursday. So it's under the Department of Agriculture, and the grant is for neighborhood reforestation in census tracts that are low to moderate income in our city. This is exciting and really important because the City Council set forth an objective to reforest our neighborhoods over the ensuing years. Many may know, especially longtime residents, that we had to remove almost 15,000 trees in neighborhoods due to the emerald ash borer disease over the last couple of decades. And it's really been devastating to neighborhoods. So we are trying to come up with any and all sorts of funding to reforest our neighborhoods. And so far, we have pieced together about $2 million. Now, it's going to take about $6 million to reforest the neighborhoods, but we're well on our way. And this grant is just one more giant leap forward. So we're going to be reporting back to City Council in the near future to talk about how we get the rest funded and how we get the reforestation initiative launched and completed in the next few years. And Mayor, the last item on my report is an update on the significant progress we've made with our non-motorized transportation plan, specifically as it relates to sidewalks and filling gaps all across the city. We've been doing this for many, many years now, but we've made especially significant progress over recent years. This past summer was one of our biggest years ever, and next year will be a record-breaking year. So with us this evening is our city engineer, Brent Bayshaw, who's going to lead us through this presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vanderpool, Mayor Taylor, members of council, Mr. Krzyzewski, and good evening. Through a multitude of programs, initiatives, planning tools, and policies, the city of Sterling Heights has built out our sidewalk network and trail systems. At the 2020 strategic planning session, the city created an emphasis to make a push on completing sidewalk gaps. So the map shown was created to identify the priority sidewalk gaps to be completed, which are shown as bold red lines. The goal was to complete the work within the preceding 10-year span. Since 2020, much work has been completed through our 3 delivery methods, which is the major road reconstruction projects, city sidewalk programs, and private developments as part of site plans. And this presentation will take a brief snapshot of the progress. I'll begin with the west side of the city and move east. DeQuinda Road sidewalk gaps between 17 Mile Road and 18 Mile Road were completed this summer. This project completed all sidewalk gaps on the east side of DeQuinda, and now DeQuinda sidewalk is complete on the east side through the city limits. On the east side of Ryan Road, the remaining gaps between 17 Mile and 18 Mile Road will be completed with the Ryan Road paving project. Upon completion, the entire east side of Ryan Road through the city limits will have sidewalk as well. In the summer of 2023, the last gap on the west side of Ryan Road, just north of 14 Mile Road, was completed. The sidewalk on the west side of Ryan Road from 14 Mile Road to 19 Mile Road now is complete. Up next is Mound Road. The entire west side of Mound Road will be built as a widened trail from M59 to 696. The path is substantially complete from M59 to 18 Mile Road and from north of 15 Mile Road to 14 Mile Road. The middle section will be completed once the overhead utilities are transferred to the new poles set on the east side of the road, and the existing poles on the west side of the road will be removed. Sidewalk construction is substantially complete on the east side of the road through the city limits as planned. Moving east, this summer, North Van Dyke saw all the gaps complete from the northerly city limits to 18.5 Mile Road roundabout. So this included sidewalk across the old Riverland amusement park parcel, across the Ailes Hideaway parcel, and the lone gap on the west side of Van Dyke as well. Additionally, on Van Dyke, a large gap was completed by Ford Motor Company in 2021 across its Van Dyke frontage. This gap was significant as it connected South Van Dyke sidewalk to the North Van Dyke sidewalk. This was one of our top priorities in 2020. Also in 2020, the last remaining sidewalk gap along Shaner between M59 and 17 Mile Road was built across the church property. Additionally, all the sidewalk gaps along Saul Road were completed as part of the Saul Road reconstruction project, including across both cemeteries, one of which is shown in this top picture. This summer, the last gap on Hayes between Clinton River Road and M59 was constructed. And also the gaps on the south side of Clinton River Road was complete with the gap closure near Early Drive upcoming. A significant improvement to the sidewalk system was also made on 14 Mile Road this summer. And this sidewalk gap was completed across the railroad and tied into the new sidewalk built by Amazon Development to the west. And all the gaps were completed to Van Dyke to the east. A sidewalk east of Van Dyke was completed this summer as well. And this includes the intersection shown here in the adjacent picture. And all the gaps were completed to easterly towards the Maple Lane Golf Course. Additionally, local road connectors were made to this 14 Mile Road sidewalk, such as this gap on Somerset Drive was completed. Next, the ongoing Plumbrook Road project included closing a significant amount of gaps, including this one at the intersection of Utica Road and Plumbrook. Shown as a before and after picture, and this gap completes Utica Road from Shaner to the residential developments to the south. And the same sidewalk construction on this corner parcel completed the sidewalk gap on Plumbrook Road that connects to the Utica Road sidewalk. Moving west on Plumbrook, the south side gaps were completed between 17 Mile Road and Dodge Park Road, and shown as a before and after picture of this construction as well. And all the gaps were completed on the south side between 17 Mile Road and Dodge Park. And I think I said Van Dyke before, but 17 and Van Dyke and 17 and Dodge Park. And this section happens to be 17, between 17 and Dodge and Van Dyke. The 18 Mile Road sidewalk between Mound Road and Van Dyke was the first project to be completed after our 2020 initiative. This project completed all the sidewalk on the south side of 18 from DeQuinder to Utica Road. And the last gap on the south side of 19 Mile Road west of Mound Road was recently completed as part of the active site development of the center. The last gap on the north side of 19 Mile Road from Clinton River to Hayes was complete with the 19 Mile Road project across the church property. And at this point, I'd like to shift gears a little bit and talk about a further initiative from 2022 that emerged through a strategic planning session to add more mid-block crossings to our sidewalk system. Mid-block crossing between DeQuinder and Ryan was constructed. Also a mid-block crossing on 15 Mile Road. And this year, mid-block crossing was added to Plumbrook Road near Walsh Elementary School. And this location will contain push-button rapid flashing beacons once finalized. And that system looks something like this. So this system can be effective in creating driver awareness for pedestrians that might be crossing the roadway. These have been installed at the Riverland mid-block crossing in 2022, and more are planned, including the existing and upcoming 15 Mile Road mid-block crossing near Cavant. The existing 15 Mile Road crossing that I showed earlier near McDonald's will have these as well. And then we've been working with UCS, Utica Community Schools, to install these at Stevenson High School, and then on the Utica Road pedestrian crossings near the city center as well. So I'd now like to talk about upcoming and exciting sidewalk gap and trail projects that will occur in 2024. As part of the Maple Lane Road project, sidewalk will be built along the east side of Maple Lane, and this sidewalk will complete all the gaps, and Maple Lane will be walkable from 14 Mile Road to 15 Mile Road upon completion of this project. And there is a chance we get this done this fall. In 2024, sidewalk will be built across the Henry Ford II High School and on the bridge over M53 and connect to the 19 Mile Road sidewalk. And the bridge will create a pedestrian barrier separated walk like this one shown. Additionally, sidewalk will be constructed on the south side of M59 from Starrett Street to the bridge over M53. This project is significant. It is the last gap of sidewalk on the south side of M59 from Hayes to Van Dyke. And M59 will be truly walkable through our community for the first time on completion of this project. City will also be pursuing a 2,000-foot sidewalk gap on the south side of 15 Mile Road from Ketson Drive to the east to finish 15 Mile Road sidewalk between DeQuinder and Ryan. And now I'd like to touch on two upcoming projects that will construct a total of 6 miles of trailway. First, the trail project along the Edison corridor will connect M59 to Shaner and extend south to the trailhead at Edison Court. And Edison Court will be reimagined to make a safe trail connection to the trailhead that's located at the end of the court. Lastly, the Dobie Trail project will be constructed in 2024 as well. It will begin at DeQuinder and tie into the City of Utica trail system on the east side and in their portion of the Iron Bell Trail and their sidewalk system. This will connect also into the DeQuinder Road sidewalk, the Ryan Road sidewalk, and the new Mound Road sidewalk and trail on the west side, and into all the trail networks as well. To put a few measurables on this progress, through the end of 24, there will be sidewalk gap completions at 25 major road locations that account for 70% of the 10-year goal established in 2020. 3 major trail projects at Mound Road, Dobie Road, and Edison Court will add an additional 12 miles of trail to our existing trail network. In summary, the completion of these gaps and trails creates a vastly improved interconnectivity of our sidewalk and trail system that was imagined in 2020. The city will continue the effort beyond 2024 as we continue planning and constructing. And lastly, I'd like to say the city would love to hear from residents regarding specific sidewalk location requests. We value the feedback, as unlike our roadway system, we don't have vehicle counts to determine usage, so it's important. There are many ways to provide your feedback. You can call the Office of Engineering at this number shown, 586-446-2720. But go to the website or use this QR code to get to our cone zone and hit the report issue button at the bottom of the page. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.
And Mayor, I just wanted to thank Mr. Baisha and his engineering team for the good work in this area. You can see it's really significant. A lot of progress has been made. It's not easy. It sounds simple to build a sidewalk, but you have to get the easement agreements, you have to negotiate with the property owners, businesses, residents alike. It's very time-consuming, and I appreciate his good work. I did want to also highlight that we have bike lanes going in as well on a number of our projects, including Plumbrook Road this year, and also in the next couple of years, the Clinton River Road Corridor Project, which in total is going to be a $13 million reconstruction of Clinton River Road between Hayes and Van Dyke. So we've not only spent $500 million, that's with a B, $500 million on roadway projects, but we're making significant progress on our sidewalks. And Mayor, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. And next up, we have a presentation. This is a swearing-in ceremony for 5 new Sterling Heights firefighters. I will turn it over to our fire chief, Kevin Edmond. Chief Edmond.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszybski. Good evening. First of all, I want to thank you for your support in allowing us to accomplish our mission of keeping the community safe. These accomplishments on the fire department couldn't be done without hiring the best candidates that are out there, and then the support that you give us. So right now, I would like to introduce our candidates, and as I introduce them, they'll stand up, and then at the end, we'll swear them all in. I'd like to start with Ethan Cartwright. Ethan's from Shelby Township. He attended Utica High School and Macomb Community College for his associate's degree, and then he went on to the Wayne State University for a bachelor's degree in psychology. Prior to working for us, he worked at UPS, MedStar, and then this is a candidate that we stole from Warren Fire Department. He was a cadet there, and he came over to work with us. Ethan is a long-distance runner, so I'm sure he'll compete in the Sterling Fest 5K coming up. And he's also completed in 2 half marathons, so my hand's off to him for those races. Next, I'd like to introduce Kalen Rowe. He is born and raised from the Pacific Northwest. So that's where they kind of grow the big trees. So we got him.
Not Seattle, I hope.
No.
Good.
So he started his career off in the U.S. Forestry Service, and then when he wasn't fighting forestry fires in the downtime, off-season, he was working in the ER to get his paramedic skills up. The thing about Ethan is he was working in the military operations with heavy equipment to support the wildfire teams prior to coming here. And he's also a world traveler. He has been overseas in the Middle East. He's helped out in these trips by constructing projects and staffing some clinics to help impoverished people. He enjoys outdoor activities and likes to play rec sports. Next up is John Scripp. He was born and raised in Charlotte, Michigan. He's always wanted to be a firefighter since he was a wee little person, which that was the way I kind of grew up too. So I've always wanted to do it. He served in the Army as a tank crewman for 8 years, and thank you for your service in the military. Then he moved to the Detroit area to become a firefighter, so he attended Macomb Community College fire and EMS programs, and he also likes the outdoors. Next up is Devon Ortiz. He's also a veteran. He's from the Navy, and I want to thank you for your service in the Navy. After the military, he was kind of wandering and looking for a career, so he started working as an EMT with MedStar. And then during his encounters with MedStar, he encountered local fire departments, and he goes, boy, I want to be like them. So he came over to us and was able to get we picked him up while I was in paramedic school, and he's working out fine for us, so thank you, Devon.
Wonderful.
And last but not least is Griffin Nicholas. This is a born and raised member of the fire department. He grew up in Sterling Heights. He went to Browning Elementary, Bemis Middle School, and graduated from Henry Ford. He also worked for, if I believe, the Parks and Rec Department before coming with us. He attended Macomb Community College, had fire and EMS. And he's always wanted to work for Sterling because that's where he's born and raised. If you'd all stand up now, raise your right hand. All right. I state your name.
I, James Ortiz,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the Sterling Heights City Charter,
the Sterling Heights City Charter,
and I will comply with the rules and regulations of the Sterling Heights Fire Department
and I will comply with the rules and regulations of the Sterling Heights Fire Department,
and discharge the duties of my office to the best of my ability.
and discharge the duties of my office to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. And now the part that they don't know, they have to step up and say kind words.
Favorite part.
It's a dream come true to be here. Thank you so much, and I hope to serve you well.
Thank you very much, guys, for the opportunity to serve the community. Coming from a different state, it's great to see another community that's thriving and looking to support the citizens and with the fire department. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for having me here. I look forward to a great career, and thanks for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I'm glad to call this my first full-time fire department.
Excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, guys. Well, we're excited to have you too. You guys can have a seat for a minute. I'm going to open it up to our city council to make any comments that they may have. Anybody? Mrs. Sarowski?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So I want to welcome you all. It's a great department to be in, as I'm sure you've heard. But I have to make a shout out for firefighter John Schripp. You're from, I have to correct our esteemed fire chief. It's not Charlotte. It's Charlotte. I'm from Grand Ledge, so is my husband. So, right, it's a small community right next to Charlotte. And so, again, say it with me, Charlotte. But welcome to you all. I really appreciate, we all very much appreciate you being here. We are very proud of our firefighters. We very much, as a council, look forward to any opportunities that we can to support you. We want to make sure that you have the best gear, the best training, the best chief, and the best opportunities. So thank you for being here, and thank you for serving us. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Sarowski. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to welcome you all to the Sterling Heights Fire Department. I have to commend Chief Edmund. He is bringing us the best of the best. I am so impressed by your biographies and your height. I mean, I think you're going to do a great job here. I have to correct you, Devannier? Oh, sorry about that. So it's your first fire department. It's going to be your last department. Because we have the community behind us. We have a millage in place to help get you what you need. We expect a lot. You know, we have a very high standard here, which I'm sure you've become familiar with, but we're sure you're going to meet it. And because of that, the community's going to support you, and we're going to keep everybody safe. So I appreciate all that you guys have done so far. You're going to have long careers here, and you're going to do a lot more, and you're going to probably be up here for many honors in the future. But welcome, and stay safe out there, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Radke. Council, anyone else? If not, I'll be brief. You know, I want to thank you guys for being here. It's hard to find good firefighters and good police officers lately, and we rely on them. We certainly prioritize public safety here in Sterling Heights. I think we do a lot of things very well, but our reputation is that we are a very safe community, and we're a community where if you call 911 and you are in an emergency, we are going to have fire personnel that are responding quickly and professionally. It's been many years since I've done a ride-along, but I still am just amazed at how professional our department is. And it's no accident. And what I will say is, you know, in my 14 years, many of my colleagues have been here many, many years. We've had this reputation for a long time, and you know, it's incumbent on you to carry that reputation. It's yours now, and it's your department. And I think what you'll find is, Griffin, you grew up here in the city of Sterling Heights. I picked up my daughter from Bemis Junior High 25 minutes before this meeting started. So I like to see that you're familiar with the community, but that's nothing against the other four of you. You know, I think you're here for a very good reason. Our residents support our police and fire departments. They love the police and fire departments. You guys do a phenomenal job, and so we ask you to keep that up. You know, remember that you're representing a long history and tradition of excellence here in this department, and our residents deserve really nothing less than that. So thank you for committing your life to public service, being a part of this team here. If there's anything that you need from us, we are not hard to find. You know, I know there's proper channels, you got your union bosses and all that, but you'll find that the city council is very accessible. The city administration wants to do what we can to support the fire department because there's 134,000 residents and many more business owners and other people who come through the city that rely on it. So God bless you, Godspeed, stay safe, keep our residents safe, and thank you so much for your commitment to the city of Sterling Heights. One more round of applause for these firefighters. Chief, you may dismiss them, unless you want to stick around. We've got some exciting things on the agenda tonight. You might want to stick around for the Dodge Park Coney Island. I'm just kidding. But if you don't know about the Dodge Park Coney Island, ask Griffin. He'll tell you. You'll get treated very well there. He's getting an award in a few minutes. But in all seriousness, Chief, you may dismiss them and take pictures. Enjoy the night tonight, guys. You too, Chief. All right. With that, we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on any item on tonight's consent agenda? Okay, I think we're just piling out. Don't think anybody's, of course, consent agenda with the omission of M. All right, so council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
Been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next agenda item tonight is a consideration item. This was M from the consent agenda. This is to adopt a resolution recognizing and congratulating Dodge Park Coney Island on the milestone of reaching 20 years of successful business operations in the city of Sterling Heights. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Nobody?
She's waving at you. She's waving at you.
Come on.
All right, we have our former colleague and county commissioner from the city of Sterling Heights, Joseph Romano, who I do believe pays rent for the back corner booth
Good.
at the Dodge Park Coney Island.
Good evening, Mayor,
Mr.
Council, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Kaczynski. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this tribute for Dodge Park Coney Island and the owners, and owner, I should say, Mr. Paschal Wikai. Mr. Wikai came here from a foreign country looking for the American dream. He came here with his mom and his younger brother. They moved to Hamtramck originally. Mr. Wikai worked as a dishwasher originally and moved up from there to a short order cook. And lo and behold, a few years later, at the ripe old age of 20 years old, decided he wanted to open up his own business. So with his mother and his brother, they purchased Dodge Park Coney Island. Paschal was the cook. Mom did the soups, probably the washing the dishes also. And his younger brother, waitressed, also did some cooking. And then we moved fast forward here 20 years to a very successful business. And at any given time during lunchtime, you could probably find some political person in there, being one of the city council members, one of the political members of the community. In fact, he had Governor Gretchen Whitmer in there twice. He's had Senator Peter in there a couple of times. He's had Kid Rock. He's had numerous people from the county, such as, I can't even think, who's our county commissioner?
Joe Romano?
Thank you. I practically lived there.
Mark
Mr. Radke,
Hackle.
you're no shirker yourself. But he's had a lot of people from the county there. He had our executive there, Mark Hackle has been there.
Just trying to-
Our county clerk has been there. Mr. Rock, our treasurer, has been there. And they all come back with the same story. What a great place. What a friendly place. What great food. And Poshko has always been very generous, not only to the people in the restaurant, but also to the city of Sterling Heights. I think he has a message on his front door that says, if you need something for a good cause, come see Poshko. He'll donate for it, because he always will. He's always willing to give. He's that type of individual. And it's an honor, honestly, to have to call him my friend, and he is, and he's a good friend. And I just want to say thank you to him for coming to Sterling Heights. Thank you and congratulations on his 20 years as Dodge Park, Coney Island. And for those of you who have not been there that are watching this, feel free to come in, because it's nothing but friendly service and great food. Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. Very well said, and we appreciate you being here tonight. Anyone else on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
resolve to adopt a resolution recognizing and congratulating Dodge Park, Coney Island on the milestone of reaching 20 years of successful business operations in Sterling Heights.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mr. Radke?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wow, Joe really said it all, didn't he? I brought the resolution forward with my colleagues because Poshko not only runs a tremendous business, the Dodge Park, Coney Island, but he volunteers his time. He is a member of, or he is the chairman of our planning commission. He is the chairman of our zoning board of appeals. He serves on various boards throughout the city and elsewhere. He's always willing to help out the community in any way possible. I know he's going to do some improvements to Dodge Park Road. It's coming. But he's a tremendous member of the community. He's also my friend, and I'm so honored to have him live here and make our community better every day. And if you haven't been to the Dodge Park, Coney Island, you'll maybe see me or Joe sitting on a stool there, talking, having coffee. But it really is, it says in the resolution, Second City Hall, because it's a community gathering place. And it's a community gathering place because Poshko is so welcoming, and his family and his employees are so welcoming. That's the kind of place that powers the local community. You know, a place where you can go have a cup of coffee, see people you know, say hello, and eat really good food. So I'm very honored to bring this resolution forward. Poshko deserves it. The Dodge Park, Coney Island deserves it. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Radke. Mrs. Sarowski.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. And of course, I'm going to certainly echo my colleague and my good friend Joe Romano's comments. But yes, it's a great business. Poshko is leading a good restaurant. But he also did some things that kind of are back behind the scenes. During COVID, Poshko donated food a number of times to different community groups. He donated it to the hospital. He donated it to the fire department. He donated it to the police. He financially donates money to different groups that he doesn't talk about. But he's very generous, as many people have said. People who some who don't even have homes come in and eat, and they don't have to pay in his restaurant. They get to sit in there when it's cold, and they can sit at the counter and eat. And yeah, sorry, Poshko, and that's not my husband. He does have a home. But he does sit at the counter sometimes. But he's really quiet about some of his things. Not always quiet about others. But so it's with honor that we are honoring him. We're lucky to know him. Yes, it is an area, a place that a lot of us do go. And I'm just happy to be able to honor him. There are other people out there that do great, good works too. So someday we'll be honoring those men and women as well. But this is someone that we can honor, and it's a pleasure to be able to do that. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Sarowski. Council, anyone else? I don't even know where to begin. I really don't. Pashko, a good friend of mine and a good friend to really anybody who's ever met him. Just one of the kindest, most generous, giving people you'll ever meet. Truly one of a kind, a tremendous story of coming to this country and not just surviving, but really thriving. You know, I'm inspired by what you've done, by how you've taken a little restaurant in a corner of the city of Sterling Heights, and you've used that to make yourself a part of this community. And it's something that's really incredible when you think about it. When you think about all the opportunity that this country has to offer, if you want to know what the American dream is, you really don't have to look much farther than Pashko Weekai. Coming over here as a young boy, without really a whole lot of connection, a whole lot of, without any real privilege, and using that to cement your position in the city of Sterling Heights and in what we do and in this community, I think it's remarkable. I'm just happy that you've chosen to stay here in Sterling Heights, to really probably do anything in the world that you wanted, and you chose to run a great restaurant where you provide the opportunity to give back to the community, give back in small ways and in big ways. And I'm just really glad to know you, Pashko, glad to have become your friend. And you are certainly one of a kind, and thank you for everything that you do. You're really the best. I mean it. So thank you so much. We do have a resolution
Mayor
tonight.
Taylor,
Mrs.
could I just say one thing?
Yeah, you can.
So I as well would like to thank Pashko for everything he's done for this community. I think we'd be remiss, though, if we didn't mention Mayor Nadi, who was the original one that started that second city hall down there at the counter. You could pretty much find him there every day as well. So I think, he started a good thing, and we've all just continued it. So congratulations on everything you've done and everything you will do in the future, Pashko. Thanks.
I agree. So, Pashko, I want you to come down to, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I do want to present this to you. We'll take a picture, and before we wrap up, you're going to have to stay up at the microphone and say a few words.
The punishment.
Floor is yours.
Well, with no objection, Mr. Mayor, I figured,
That for 4 minutes.
I figured 20 years, maybe I get 1 minute for each year.
One extra minute.
If not, I can cut it down to 19.
A minute a year.
I figured that was the right thing. Well, listen, good evening to all of you here and at home. I want to thank Mr. Radke Councilman Radke for making a motion for this resolution, and all of you for supporting it. Honestly, it is 20 years. It is a long time, but when you enjoy it, it feels like it was yesterday. And I do want to thank my mother that brought me to this world and actually was by me for every minute of my life. So as my brother, he helped out a lot, even though he was the first one to go on break, but he did help out a lot. Also, I do have a staff member that's been with Dodge Park for 19 years. I know when she tells people that, they're like, wow, you look 20 yourself. And I'm like, it's probably because she had an easy job. Listen, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank Mr. Romano. I'm glad he's here, actually, because maybe he can figure out how things go in order. And I'm gonna tell you what I mean by that. About a month ago, he comes up to me and he's like, "Listen, he's like, I'm getting an award for my time being on a commission. I would like you to be there." I'm like, "Sure, yeah, I'll be happy to." So I go in, walking into the door. I run to Councilman Radke, run into him, and I was like, "Wow, Joe really receives respect from both sides of the aisle." We'll go into a room. Guess who's there? Our county executive, Mark Hackle, and prosecutor, Pete Lucido. And they're not arguing. I'm like, wow, Joe really sets the tone. And he takes up the floor, and sure enough, he throws me under the bus, and it's all about me. So, I bring that up. I bring him up not to roast him, well, maybe a little, but also to make a point that, Councilman Schmidt, that's where it started. I remember the day when him and Nadi walked to the doors, And I've been living in the city a few years before that, and I didn't know what everyone's role was, but I knew who they were. How can you miss the head? How can you miss the Pandora head? And I see Nadi walking in, and Joe's with him, and I was like, oh my God, those are some important people. And so I go to my mom in the back. I said, Mom, we got some important people that came to pay us a visit. She's like, well, who are they? I said, I don't know. All I know is they're important. I recognize them. They're important. And probably Nadi saw how nervous I was behind the grill, and he always was good making the first move. And he comes up on the end. He comes up to me. He's like, hey, good breakfast. I'm like, oh, God, thank God. I said, thank you. And you know what? They ended up coming back. It must have been good. And the rest is history. So I do want to leave you with this. It's very interesting what I learned in this role, that life is like a B and a D, a birth and death. And you know what's in between? A C, a choice. And I've been blessed to have the C that I have. Because this is, I can tell you as an immigrant, this is the greatest country on earth to get that C and have that C. And I'm blessed to have that C, and I've choose City of Sterling Heights. Thank you all, and God bless you.
Well said, Pashko. Thank you again, and council. Without any further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations again, Pashko, and again, thank you. And I know the restaurant's got 14 minutes till you got to get back and close. If you got to get back and close, you can leave. You don't have to watch the rest of the meeting, but if you would like to stay, we do have some interesting things coming up. So congratulations, Pashko. Great job. So next up on our agenda tonight is a consideration item, and this is to accept a proposal for refuse, recyclables, and yard waste collection in the city of Sterling Heights. We have presentations by our Public Works Director, Michael Moore, and our Finance and Budget Director, Jennifer Varney. I assume, Mr. Moore, you would like to kick it off, or Ms. Varney?
Yeah, Mayor, I can start.
You got it. Floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, members of council, City Manager, and City Attorney. Tonight, we wanted to talk about the recommendation for the refuge contract for the City of Sterling Heights. I thought it would be most appropriate to start going at least a little bit over our history before we get into what we're going to recommend. So, as you know, the contract was awarded in 2016 and expires this upcoming year, April 30th, 2024. Our current style of refuse collection right now is mixed containers from bags and carts, and anything else residents choose, almost anything else they'd like to put at the curb, it will be collected. Yard waste is collected in similar mixed containers, brown bags, and a cart if it is purchased by the resident. And recycling can be purchased, a subscription recycling for $57 a year, you would receive a 65-gallon cart. So that is our current process for refuse, yard waste, and recycling collection. Moving forward, we really wanted to bring the city up to best industry standards as far as refuse collection. What you see on the right-hand side is what most communities are now doing, which is cart collection. Not on the left-hand side of the screen, which is the Sterling Heights set out. That really just isn't the Sterling way and not what we're looking for. Especially if we're trying to follow our Visioning 2030 guiding principles of well-maintained and desirable neighborhoods. I think we could all agree the photo on the right-hand side is a bit more fitting for the community, especially after all the nice things we've heard about it this evening. So the picture on the left leads to further issues, not just cans blowing down the street and bags blowing down the street, lids blowing down the street, but also rodents. Once those cans and litter and debris are knocked over, it begins the cycle of a rodent concern in the neighborhoods. When we talk about best industry practices, what you see here is a lot of different communities in southeast Michigan that have some form of cart collection. Unfortunately, what you see here is Sterling Heights not highlighted. So city administration believes now is the time to have cart collection in the city. So our plan, a cart for refuse, brown bags for yard waste, or if resident wanted to purchase a cart, they could for yard waste. And everyone would receive a cart for universal curbside recycling. One caveat of the refuse collection is everything would have to be contained inside a cart. So all refuse would have to go inside a cart. Should there be an extra amount of material commonly, then that resident would have to purchase a second cart from the vendor. Special collection and bulk collection would remain unchanged. There would be no change. Furniture at times could still be set out, or appliances, we call them white goods, but appliances could still be set out at the curb and be collected. So why do we bring this to you tonight? Well, this affords approximately 8 months for the vendor to prepare the city for the transition to cart collection, something the city has never had. It allows the vendor to order equipment, which is very important in today's everything now being backlogged and back-ordered and the timelines to receive things, as we all know too well. And it also allows quite a long time to create a public education campaign that is going to be the crux to making this transition successful. Sustainability has been a topic for the city of Sterling Heights for quite some time. So how does this new approach tie into sustainability? Well, automated carts reduce the volume of contractor personnel, in theory reducing cost. Carts allow for cleaner and more uniform appearance on trash day, improving neighborhood curbside appeal that we briefly touched on. Universal curbside recycling is consistent with our sustainability plan. And good news is, wherever the cart is placed, the truck will put it right back where the resident placed it. So I think it would absolutely reduce any concerns of where someone places their cart in the morning and where they come home in the evening if it's somewhere it wasn't initially placed. So next to me is our Finance and Budget Director, Jennifer Varney, and she'll shortly dive deeper into the costs. But just a quick overview, right now the average resident pays $107 for annually for refuse and refuse collection. And since we've received the bids, now the average resident would pay $136. However, that would include a refuse cart, everyone receiving a recycle cart, and yard waste collection. That also, which Jennifer will go into a bit more detail, this actually comes at a savings. For those folks who do pay the $57 recycling subscription, the $136 is actually a savings for all of those folks. So when the bids came in, and through the diligent work of quite a large team of Sterling Heights staff members, the lowest vendor was Priority Waste. Priority Waste has been in business over 5 years and has quite a portfolio. Some of their municipalities you see before you, from New Baltimore, Bloomfield Township, Washington Township, Utica, Dearborn Heights. Their plan would be to deploy one of or both of these styles of trucks. Probably what we'd see would be the truck on the right-hand side and that small white container, if you will. I believe it's called a Corrado. When everyone receives their refuse cart, now that it would be a one-person operation, that operator of the vehicle simply drives up to the cart and the mechanic arm picks up the cart, dumps it into that front small dumpster Corrado, and then tips it into the back of the truck. So a very efficient service delivery model. We've talked often about the size of cart, and I thought it would be important to show the size of the carts today. On the right-hand side, you'll see a 95-gallon cart. On the left-hand side, you'll see a 65-gallon cart. City administration is proposing a 95 for refuse and a 65 for recycling. Should a resident want to purchase an additional refuse, it would come in the size of a 95. And should a resident want to purchase the yard waste cart, it would be a 95. But what you see here is there's not much different in size. I think there's been some concern in the past of the size and where this cart could be placed. But truthfully, looking at the bottom of the cart, 27 inches to 29 inches, there's not much difference from your standard hardware store-bought can. These are somewhat similar of the same size, however, far more maneuverable and very mobile. I've told the story before. My son, he just turned 7, and his job is to take the trash to and from the curb, and he's able to, whether it's fully, even when it's fully loaded, the 95-gallon cart, he can take that cart to the curb and back. And looking at the map that was highlighted in yellow, all those communities have found a way for their folks to take the cart from the home to the curb, and I think that Sterling Heights residents can absolutely do the same. So what makes Priority stand out? One thing that our entire team was impressed by was the amount of technology that they've put into their business model. Instead of having supervisors in the field, Priority's business model is to have supervisors similar to what you see here that are in the office and have 24, well, not 20, constant communication with the drivers via a smart device in their trucks where they can FaceTime each other, they can talk to each other. But also importantly too, there's cameras on every truck. So while the supervisors are back in the field, they can still monitor each vehicle, where it may be, if it's progressing along as it's supposed to be through the day. But also, too, I think it's important to note, with the cameras on the vehicle, it's common, not just in Sterling Heights, but around the country, that we all feel the complaint of, I was missed, or what happened. Well, the benefit of these cameras is now we can actually go back. Now we can go back, and we'll have some proof and evidence to see, was there a mistake? And if there was, that's okay. Priority can educate the resident, softly educate the resident on maybe why they weren't collected. Or if they were truly missed, Priority will return and make sure that stop is serviced. Also, too, with their GPS technology, they can track the trucks throughout the sections of the city. So I don't quite recall what the colored squares represent, but let's just say, for example, a green square is a bulk pickup. So now, with this technology, they can simply, on their smart device in their truck, when they go by a set, they can service the can with the truck that I showed the picture of, but yet just ping something on the map that will automatically route the bulk truck to come collect that, as well as if the truck is idling for too long, that will send a message back to these folks, and after a certain amount of time, it may turn yellow, and after an extended period of time, it may turn red, where they'll dial up, FaceTime, and check in with the driver, see if everything's okay, is there something wrong with the truck, what's happening because you're a bit behind schedule. So my last slide is a brief timeline. September 19th, which is tonight, we bring the contract before you. We would then, in October, begin ordinance revisions and create a public education plan. November and December, those would be introduced and adopted. January 2024, the public education program begins, or sooner if available. April, refuse and recycle carts would be delivered, and then in May, the new service would begin. And I'll pass it over to Finance and Budget Director Jennifer Varney.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Good evening, City Council, Mr. Koszubski, Mr. Vanderpool, and city residents. Mr. Moore did a great job of explaining the qualitative reasons why priority is our recommendation, and I wanted to delve into the financial reasons. So here is a comparison of the 4 bids that we received from Priority Waste, Waste Management, GFL, our incumbent, and FCC Environmental Services. This is just a simple comparison of the year 1 bid, the per stop amount for refuse, recycling, and yard waste that was bid by each company. And you can see here that the Priority Waste total of $371 per stop versus the second lowest bid by Waste Management of $459, $476 at GFL, and $621 at FCC. So this is just a comparison of the per stop costs. Now, when you extrapolate that out into annual costs, this is the chart that's seen here. The year one cost for priority waste is $7.7 million versus 9.7 for GFL, 13.9 for FCC, and 9.5 for waste management. The 10-year total cost, which is what we are recommending a 10-year contract, you can see that priority waste is at 88.3. GFL is the next lowest at 111.5. So over the 10-year contract term, it's a $23 million savings to the city and our residents by going with the lowest bidder of priority waste. And you can see that FCC is significantly more expensive at $159 million, and Waste Management did not provide a 10-year contract. So a 10-year contract amount, what are the reasons that we're recommending that? The first is that Priority offered an additional $1 million savings over the original bid pricing by agreeing to a 10-year contract. But to me, the most important reason is the low pricing that we received from Priority and the ability to lock it in for 10 years. The $88 million for the 10-year contract averages out to $8.8 million over the 10-year period. That's lower than the year one cost of the second lowest bid, and an average annual saving of $2.3 million over a 10-year period. So the ability to lock in this low cost is our primary reason for recommending the 10-year contract. And I'd also like to mention that Priority is also including a $75,000 stipend to finance a public education campaign as part of their contract. So what does this mean to the average household? Here, based on an average household taxable value of just under $95,000, which equates to about a $270,000 market value home. As Mr. Moore mentioned, the average cost per household is about $136 a year. That comes out to $261 a week. And the increase over the current year taxes is about $29 a year or 56 cents a week. However, for all of the 10,000 subscribers that currently pay the $57 subscription fee, nearly all of them will see a net reduction between their increase in taxes and not paying the $57 subscription fee. The average cost per household for just the recycling portion is about $39. So the average household will save about $17. But I'm comfortable saying that nearly every household, I went up to a household of a market value of $500,000, and even they would see a small net savings because their taxes will go up less than the $57 that they're paying currently for subscription-based. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Mr. Moore, who will introduce the Priority Waste team.
Thank you. For questions, if council desires, the Priority team is here, including their Chief Executive Officer, Todd Stamper. At this time, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moore and Ms. Varney. So I will go to the audience, but is there anyone from, I know we have representatives from Priority and from GFL here. Is there anyone from either that would like to speak? Mr. Munum. So we can, for the first couple, we can dispense with the timer. But just try to be reasonable.
I'll try.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Munum.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you know, my name is Joe Munum. I am the Government Affairs Director for GFL Environmental. We are proud to serve this community, and we're so proud that we have one of our major operation yards located within the city of Sterling Heights on Elmridge Street, which is at 18 and Mound Road, where we pay both property and personal taxes on the equipment, where our 500 employees that work there every day are proud to be here in the city of Sterling Heights, spending money in this community uh, going out on their way to and from work, picking up meals and going to the stores. In fact, we have some of our employees here in the back row tonight. Could you guys just stand so? Thank you. We have 55 residents of employees of GFL that are residents of this community, including myself, a 50-year resident of this community and a taxpayer. So we've been very proud to serve this community over the past 7.5 years of this contract. We understand the pricing differentials in the bid. There are reasons that go along with that, and we believe that right now with the equipment cost, given the rates of inflation and the financing for that, that rates are higher. And if you were to take the fully automated option that was submitted in the RFPs, all of them are higher than what you have in your existing curbside collection. And perhaps if you waited a few years, if interest rates came down, this might be an entirely different scenario. So I'm just here tonight, and I am going to keep it brief, that if you were looking to explore another option for the time being, we would be proud to continue to serve this community going forward. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Munum. Ed, would anyone from Priority like to address the council?
Good evening, everybody. Todd Stamper, CEO of Priority Waste, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vanderpool, council. What got us in this industry is the sheer fact that it was stagnant and there's a different way to do things. Disruptors come in to make businesses better, no matter where they're located. We looked at how things are done and knew there's a better way. We can order a package from Amazon, it's at our house at 10 o'clock in the morning, yet we can't get our garbage picked up, or another thing, or another thing. By adding these systems, the technologies, the operating system, we bring safety to our men and women that drive our trucks. We bring the benefit cost savings to the cities that we represent. We bring accountability through cameras. We bring open portals, and we bring a true team to both the supplier and the city and its employees. Everything is transparent. We work to get better. The less calls the city have, the less money it costs you. I'll leave you guys with this. On average, for every missed stop you have, it's $135. How many calls do you get? Add it up. We're almost Six Sigma right now at a 99.9% success rate with all our communities. Call any one of them. Technology is the way that this whole world's going. Artificial intelligence is going that way. And if you want to compete with the big players, you got to change the game. I appreciate the opportunity. Congratulate your firefighters. And the Coney guy, I've eaten there a few times. I'm fortunate enough to be from the same fabric as you guys. I grew up at 14 and Shaner. I went to Career Prep Center. I don't even know if it's still there, if they've changed it. I took the wood trains. I'm a rough carpenter by trade. It was from going to CPC. And I mean, how refreshing to be at a meeting night where people are laughing and having a good time. The love of where we were raised is amazing. So thank you, everybody, and I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, sir. So then now I'll open it up to the audience. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Zarko.
Resolve to accept the proposal by Priority Waste LLC 45000 River Ridge Drive, Suite 200, Clinton Township, Michigan, 48038 for weekly refuse, recycling, and seasonal yard waste collection and disposal services for a period of May 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2034, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign all required documents on behalf of the city.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Zarko?
Well, first of all, it's been explained to us, and we have had meetings, about this particular contract. And I guess I want to start out with saying that we're not here to negotiate a contract because that's already been handled. We're here to approve it. That's our job tonight. So I just want to start out with that. I think that we've already had a discussion that we knew that with the rates that we had over the last 8 years, that our cost of, our refuge cost was going to go up because we've been very fortunate to have the rate that we do. We also understand that getting into a 10-year contract, you know, the 8-year one scares me more than this one because we know what has happened over 8 years, and we were fortunate. So I don't see a problem there with the 10-year contract. But I guess I do have a couple of concerns. So this would be through the chair to Mr. Koszubski, and because I know that you already looked over this contract 100 times. Say that Priority decides that they're doing so well that somebody comes in and they want to buy them out. Is there a clause in there that says that this contract is in place for the remainder of those 10 years?
Mr. Koszubski?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilwoman Zarko. The contract itself has a anti-assignability clause that makes it so they cannot sell or assign more than 49% of their business. So the controlling interest has to remain with Priority, whether it be through a stock sale or asset sale. So we made sure that that was covered.
Okay, thank you.
There's one question.
Okay, and then I want to talk about the recycling center because I know a part of this is the recycling center that's on Clinton River Road is going to have to close. So through the chair to Mr. Moore, could you tell us, you know, will the people that are using the recycling center now still be serviced with these carts? It's how many actually live at homes, how many live in condos or apartments?
Mr. Moore?
Great question. We have been tracking the folks that enter the recycle yard off of Clinton River, and let's just say it's roughly about 1,000 vehicles per month. And of those 1,000 vehicles per month, we're asking everybody where they live, single-family home, apartment, where they're living, and the results are about 2% of those folks that visit the recycle center live in apartments. So with everybody, if this were to be approved tonight, 98% of the visitors to the recycle center now have a cart at home. They can just recycle right from their home. The 2% will not. However, in conversations with Priority, and maybe they can touch on it a bit further, they are absolutely open to working with said apartment complexes that do desire to recycle.
Okay.
And that could be in the form of, they could place carts at a specific location or drop off actual recycling dumpsters, if you will.
Okay, thank you. You know what, I really like the idea that we're going to have carts at the curb for garbage. I mean, we've talked about this even prior to the last, contract. This has been, even the recycling carts, making it mandatory. We've been talking about this for more than 8 years. So it's time. It really, now's the time to do it. Because, I, for one, am tired of seeing garbage on the street, especially after an animal's gone through a bag, and it's all over. So to me, I see the benefit of us having a cart. I hope, okay, first of all, whether people are recycling, through the chair to Mr. Morgan, I'm hoping that people that are not recycling now, they're going to get a bin whether they're going to use it or not. Is that correct? Through the chair.
That's correct.
So hopefully this will encourage people to start recycling. Okay, so that's another benefit. All right. I did get a message from someone that's concerned about the cost of the bins. Are there funds available for people that might need assistance in purchasing those bins? Through the chair again to Mr. Moore.
Mr. Moore?
We haven't talked about, unless somebody wanted to jump in, we haven't talked about an assistance program for the bins. We do have a contracted price for the bin. I have it in my paperwork. I think it was roughly $110 for an additional cart if somebody wanted the additional cart above and beyond what they would receive. We have not yet discussed an additional funding source for that yet.
Okay, is there a chance that we might be able to get some grant money for them?
There very well could be, and to that point, Priority has been very open. Jennifer Varney also mentioned that they were going to provide $75,000 public education stipend. They've also been very open with us during this entire process that should they come across any grants, they are going to absolutely throw them our way and see if we have interest pursuing them. So I wouldn't be surprised if there could be something out there like that.
Okay, thank you. Another thing you brought up is your 7-year-old son, that's his job. I'm going to say my 94-year-old mom. When we voted on this 8 years ago, I thought, can't see a senior citizen pushing those carts to the curb. Well, my mama lives in Ohio, and she likes it. I mean, she likes the fact that, the only time it bothers her is, if she's polka danced too much during the weekend and her knees hurt. But she likes pushing the cart to the curb. She thinks it's an advantage for her. So those people that think that this might be a disadvantage, my 94-year-old mom likes it. I guess, how will the transition happen? I mean, through, the bins that we have currently and the new bins that are coming?
So there is a clause built into the contract, which is very standard when these transitions happen. All vendors are, this is very typical of that. What we'll educate the residents on is for the first 30 days of the contract, so that would be May 1st until May 31st, you can put the way you set out your refuse now, you can still do that. But also too, in that process, because you're going to now have this new cart, Priority will dispose of your current can for you. So if it can be recycled, they can recycle that. If it's not able to be recycled, they'll dispose of it properly. But residents can rest assured that they don't have to keep all these extra cans around and look for somewhere to dispose of them. Priority will collect those within the first 30 days of the contract starting.
Okay, and I like the idea that we've reached an agreement with Priority about educating our community, and that's certainly going to be an advantage moving forward, is that we have enough time. And actually, what we've been talking about this even before the contract negotiations and in the RFP, that, I've been telling my neighbors now for years, it's going to come to a point that you're going to have to get a can. Or we're all going to cans. It's not going to be any garbage on the street. So I feel comfortable in that transition. And you answered my questions. I was going to say, what about the existing cans? So if some of them can be recycled, that's fine, and if not, they'll be thrown out.
Correct.
Okay? I don't think, the other thing, Stamper sounds like a familiar name. I think we had a commissioner at one time that was John Stamper.
He ran for city council.
He ran for city council, so I don't know if there's any relation or not, but okay, I just thought I'd ask.
Different spelling, I think.
And I think right now, I guess through the chair to Mr. Stamper, is how many new trucks are you going to need to purchase in order to service Sterling Heights? So through the chair to Mr. Stamper.
Come on up here. Do you mind coming up?
All right, question again, my apologies. How many new trucks?
Okay, how many new trucks do you think you're going to have to purchase in order to service Sterling Heights?
So with spares, we had already block ordered 22.
Okay.
So we believe we can do it with 17 to 18.
Okay. And, yeah, I appreciate that. And we're going to be your biggest community, is that correct?
Yes, you're bigger than Flint. That is
Okay.
correct.
Does that make you nervous?
No,
Okay.
no, you're pretty dense. So, and there's a house on every lot, so that's kind of helpful.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And right now, I don't have any more questions.
You may want to.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. First of all, $23 million savings over 10 years is amazing, I think, and one that we can't just not acknowledge. But I do have some questions. So through the chair to Mr. Stamper, actually, Priority has a yellow dumpster at CPC right now because I work there.
Okay, perfect.
So,
I wasn't
yes,
sure if
it's
it
still
changed or
open.
not. I
Nope,
didn't know if
it's
it was still
there.
a trade school.
So will you have designated managers in the office monitoring just the Sterling Heights trucks?
Correct. So for each city we have, and it's based, the most popular question is how many? So we overload it for the first 60 to 90 days, and you kind of guide it in, because it's a new system for mostly everyone. It's new to the industry. So our logistic driver coordinators, generally, I would believe Sterling Heights probably have 4. So when you're citizens call. We pride ourselves on 1950 in the front, 2050 on the back end. Same girls answer the phone, like a live person actually answers the phone. They type in your address, whatever address you're at gets routed directly to the person that handles the drivers and handles that designated area. So we've had times where the driver's been on with their LDC and with logistic driver coordinator and a homeowner. We've put the city on with all three of them. So through, you guys would be able to do it too. You'd be able to jump on right with the driver and LDC. So you can start to see it's reverse logistics. So instead of bringing the package to the house, we're taking the package away. So, and actually your purchasing team is extremely brilliant in realizing how hard it was to reverse something, right? It's not just that easy. It's not just cameras in a truck. It's not just put a person in a stand. It's an entire operating system. So what makes it so efficient to benefit the cities and to be able to work into operating costs and still be profitable is that whole system. Missed stops, artificial intelligent cameras telling you if you did miss a stop and letting the driver know instantly, hey, you just missed a house. Proof that every house was done. The ability for the city and its members to actually log in and see that that stop was done. Portals that are live, real time, that you're inside. Everything is real, fast, done, done, done. There's no looping back. Do we make mistakes? Sure, they're computers. Have we missed stops before? Sure, I didn't say we were 100%, I said 99. We're pretty close. So if you can see when you run cost effective and you don't have people driving around in pickup trucks to pick up garbage that the guy you paid to pick up the garbage missed, you can start to see how your operating costs are extremely affected. And I really don't have too much of a problem talking in front of anybody about it, including somebody who might be in the business. Because we want change, we need change. It's an industry that's been stale since, they took the horse off and put an engine on it. That's it. That's all they've ever done. So to gain these efficiencies, we're able to put that cost savings right through you. I think our margins are the same, right? I see what publicly traded companies are doing, and I'm pretty happy with where we're at. It makes us extremely flexible.
Okay, it's no secret to my colleagues in administration that I'm really not on board with the 95-gallon cart for refuge.
Sure.
And if that's the biggest, that is the biggest concern and complaint I've been getting from residents. I have one can right now, one regular size garbage can. So having this monstrosity has really been a concern of mine. However, it has been explained that having multiple different sizes of carts, it would increase our costs. So if we had the option of getting a 65-gallon or a 95-gallon or whatever to fit my personal needs would increase the cost overall. So I just want to let the residents know that. That is why we are stuck with the big carts. Even though Mr. Moore explained they're really not that much bigger.
They shrink, really. When you start putting garbage in them, you're like, man, it sure looks like a whole lot more than it does.
Which brings me to the recycle bins. Now, Mr. Moore, you said every house is going to get one. Can a house refuse to take one?
We had that discussion. I suppose that may be something internally we can talk about. If a house didn't want one and they're going to say they're not going to recycle, I don't think we're going to force them to take a cart, would be my quick response.
Okay. Mr. Stamper, you'll have one-man trucks? Is that true?
It depends on the season. So if there may be an additional helper in the truck, if we're noticing bulks, big Christmas trees, things of that nature. But for the most part, they're automated and it's one person driving the truck. That would be picking up one truck for recycling, one truck for garbage, separate truck for a compost route, or a separate truck for a bulk item that the gentleman could not get inside his Corrado-style truck like you saw.
Okay, so which brings me to the white goods. Mm-hmm. Right now, the white goods go into the regular garbage trucks. So is there another truck that will come behind?
It would be a bulk truck. It would go on the bulk
And
truck.
it would come the same day as the regular garbage pickup?
Correct. Whatever the scheduled day is, the garbage will be picked up that day.
Okay. Do you have any provisions for seniors that might not be able, or disabled, that might not be able to get these carts down to the curb?
So we were working with the city on that, and we did offer them some options. I don't know if the city, if they would like to speak to what we discussed.
If
or-
we're not ready, Mr. Moore, that's fine, but
Yeah, I can speak to it on a high level, and if anybody wanted to jump in and critique. I believe the requirements were 67 years of age and/or medically disabled, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm sorry, and with that, if a resident could sign up for the program, that would be ran by priority, and that comes at the rate of $180 per year, and weekly, priority would go to your house, grab the carts from where they are situated, service them, and then put the carts back. I think I got all the points.
okay, great. Okay, thanks. It's great to know that that option is there. We do have an aging community, so it's nice to know they have options. And as far as yard waste, will only be paper bags or a purchased bin? So no longer our regular yard waste with the sticker bins?
Correct, yeah. Yes, yard waste will now be serviced brown bags as they are today, but no longer will we allow the random size container with the sticker on it. It'll be either brown bags or a purchase cart through priority.
Okay. And will you do recycling for Christmas trees as a?
Yeah, so the bulk truck that goes and picks up the Christmas trees, it's for Christmas trees.
Okay, because typically we don't do, that kind of.
It would all go.
Collection in the winter.
It would all go
but-
for compost anyway, so,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. I think I have no further questions at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Anyone else, council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
you can take a seat for a second. I don't want to make you have to stand the whole time. I appreciate the presentation. I think it was very well done, but I have some concerns and questions about this contract. My number one and overriding concern is the length of the contract. I've been on city council now 6 years. In November, it'll start year 7. And this is the first opportunity I've had to discuss the garbage contract, because the last contract was 8 years long and put into place before I was elected. During the course of those 8 years, some issues with the contract emerged, including the fact that we did not have recycling, that we did not have hard-sided carts, and we were unable to then change the contract because of the current contract length, which kind of locked us in to the service. So while I appreciate saving money, I guess my concern is the length and our inability to get out of the contract if there was an issue. So I guess through the chair to Mr. Koszubski, what outs do we have if this doesn't work? This is a new company, and from all appearances, it's a great company. But if it doesn't work, what outs do we have in the contract to change the contract or to leave it, I guess?
Mr. Koszubski.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Radke, we've put in multiple safeguards for performance metrics. So if there is let's say the company was unable to perform, we have a bond put in place that covers the entire year's worth of trash collection that we can draw on. They have to maintain that throughout the life of the contract. We have money default provisions that give them opportunity to cure, but if they don't, then we can cancel the contract. So we have put in really good safeguards for the city in that regard, to make sure that if they are performing, great, we expect them to, that's fantastic. But if they were to default on the major terms in the contract, that the city would have the ability to invoke a termination clause if they don't correct it.
Thank you, Mr. Koszubski. When we first discussed this at strategic planning, it was my understanding that we were looking at a 5-year or 6-year contract. Then it morphed, and when it comes before us, as a 10-year contract. Now, I appreciate the savings. No one's going to dispute that. But I'm still a little bit worried, because in the last contract, we wanted to make significant changes to the contract, and we were told essentially we have to either go out for a new contract or significantly pay more to have the service changes that we desired. So I'm not up here to negotiate. That's the city administration's job. But I would be more comfortable with a 5 or a 6-year contract with a provision allowing us to extend it to 10 years. That's my number one concern with this. A few other concerns I have are with the recycle center. Now, I appreciate that Mr. Moore, since we last met, has attempted to ascertain where the people are coming from for the recycling center. I know that we didn't have that information last time, so I'm glad that we have it now. But I still have concern. As someone who lives in a multi-family building, I do not have recycling at my condo right now. And I doubt, unless the city council mandates it, we'll ever have recycling at my multifamily right now. Because it's gonna cost, and there's no drive from the residents who are already throwing everything in the dumpster as it is to change how they collect. So there's a couple things here. As it stands right now, if we cannot bring recycling to every home in Sterling Heights, I think the recycle center for the time being should remain open. That's my concern. More than that, I think that, one, in all new construction in Sterling Heights for multifamily homes, we should mandate that recycling be included as part of the site plan. We mandate garbage right now, refuse has to come off the site. Why can't we mandate recycling be part of the equation for both PUDs and for regular construction contracts? So I would urge the city administration and the city attorney to look into that and possibly provide us with some changes to the ordinance to get that done. I also personally think that we should just go to cart recycling for yard waste. I know that most of my neighbors currently use garbage cans for their yard waste. I guess my concern for that is if you use a leaf bag and it rains, what happens? I guess you're just stuck with a wet, soggy mess on the side of your house because that's my concern. So instead of having the residents pay for it, I would hope that those carts would be part of this contract and would just mandate it. More than that, reading this contract, I see that you'll be purchasing, through the chair to Mr. Stamper, so you'll be purchasing a facility in Auburn Hills to be your cart yard. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, I have concerns with that. As Mr. Munum said from GFL, their facility is located right here in Sterling Heights, and they employ Sterling Heights residents, and I mean, it's a Sterling Heights business. Why would Auburn Hills be a better location than your largest customer?
I've been looking for a north yard for a year. We currently are on Brown Road. And if anybody can help me find a yard in Sterling Heights, I'd put it there. I have multiple agencies. We're doing everything we can to find a yard. They just don't exist. So, I mean, honestly, tonight, if somebody had a yard that would suit our needs and it was in Sterling Heights, lease or buy, I'm on it. I couldn't find one.
I appreciate that, because I want to be your best customer, if we are your customer, but I also want to make sure that you're, giving back to this. One thing we had, you saw the Dodge Park Coney presentation, is that we have businesses here that give back tremendously to the city. They become a fabric of our community. And right now, your location is in Clinton Township and a yard in Auburn Hills. I want to see a commitment to the city of Sterling Heights. That's what I'd like to see.
You'll get a commitment, for sure. Priority prides itself on giving to communities, whether we do them or not. I don't do the garbage in Clinton Township. And Priority was a big donator to the park that they built for special needs. We do things in communities everywhere. Benevolent funds in Chesterfield, I don't do their garbage. We do things everywhere. I was born and raised here. It's who I am.
I appreciate that. I guess for right now, I'm listening, but
sure,
I would hope that we could come to I understand that you have needs and you have costs that you want to amortize over, I assume, 10 years. That's why the 10-year contract came into play. But I would feel much more comfortable with a little bit of a shorter contract, that we could work out something in that area. And that's, I guess, what my concern is today.
I understand your concern.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Radke.
Council, anyone else?
I'll take a step.
Mrs. Sarowski.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So I'll start my comments through the chair to Mr. Koszubski. Well, I kind of jump in, but I'll start with Mr. Koszubski. So it was mentioned by Mr. Moore that we have ordinances needing revisions. Can you explain to us what those ordinances are?
Mr. Koszubski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman Sarowski, the ordinance right now allows for bags to be placed at the curb. I have to update the ordinance to require the mechanical carts that we're going to be using as the sole means for refuse collection. That's basically the change in the ordinance that has to happen.
So is there going to be a penalty to residents if they do not use the carts and they have bags?
That, we're looking into that as part of the updated ordinance. There's already penalties in there if they put out garbage that doesn't match the containers that we allow now, so it should follow through.
Okay, all right, so be warned, residents. Okay, and then I have a question for Mrs. Varney, through the chair to Mrs. Varney. Just to explain to the residents, because we're talking about, we're doing this because there is a contract that's coming due, an 8-year contract with GFL. And the reason that we are changing and we put out for bids and we have not renewed the contract with GFL is because of the bid being so much higher. But we were not able, can you explain to us? Well, I guess maybe I'm going to just dial this down a little bit. So just to address one of the residents who came forward and was saying that they were willing to continue to service us. His company, Mr. Munim's company, did put out bids, but that bid was not, it was too high. It was higher than the other, it was the third highest of the 4 bids. Is that correct, Mrs. Varney?
Mrs. Varney?
Yeah, so there, as I mentioned, we received 4 bids. At the 5-year mark, because Waste Management did not provide a 10-year bid.
Correct.
So at the 5-year mark, the cost was, priority was the lowest, then Waste Management, at the 5-year mark, it was priority, Waste Management, and then GFL. At the 10-year mark, there was, again, no bid from Waste Management. So GFL was the second lowest bid, but again, over the 10-year contract, it was a $23 million difference, or an average of $2.3 million a year. So it was significantly higher than the lowest bid.
Okay, and I appreciate that. These were blind bids, through the chair to Mrs. Varney, were these blind bids?
Yes, and even as the first part of the RFP process, when the committee looks at the service of the different bidders, they don't even look at the pricing till the end. So, RFP process isn't always just about price. It's also about the service and the technology and what company the committee thinks is going to do the best. And then only after they rank it based on that, do they even open the pricing, which of course is a consideration.
Right, and that was what my second question, my question was going to be to Mr. Moore. So through the chair to Mr. Moore. So the services were, can you explain, the services that were offered by any of the other companies, did they compare at all to what this company Priority is able to provide to us?
Mr. Moore?
Did they have, so I guess let me put it to you this way. Did any of the other companies have this type of technology that we are being offered through Priority?
No, not that they submitted in their RFP process. That's, I think, that was one of the most impressive details of Priority's submittal was the technology piece. We did have an opportunity to visit their administration center, and we are pretty impressed, to say the least, of how they use their technology to speak with their drivers, to service the city, and to reduce complaints.
Okay, I appreciate that, so thank you. So now my question comes to Mr. Stamper, if I could please, sir. So my question to you, I am, just to give you a little bit of background, I'm a director of nursing, and we've had quite a bit of technology issues this week. My internet's been down intermittently for the last 3 days, or 2 days, it's Tuesday. What is your backup if your tech goes down?
So we run a militant style. Every truck has a binder in it with paper routes. Everything's backed up. We have generators at the office, and our transfer stations are generated, so we can power up. But if 5G or internet itself goes down, the tablets themselves record each thing it does, and they can play back from up to a week. So if all else fails, it's old school. There's a book in the back that shows each truck where to go.
And I gave, if the residents couldn't see what I was doing, I was giving him the thumbs up because that is what we do in hospitals and back in my facility. I have a backup for every patient. It's on paper. If my computers go down, we can pull up the old school binder and see their medications, their diagnoses, their doctors, everything they need to have done. just in case, because that can happen.
I'm
So
laughing.
that's-
My mom was a nurse for 30 years and
So-
from charting has two
Yes.
8-inch rods in her back because she was short and she couldn't reach where they'd put the cabinets. And she
Okay.
claims that her bad back was from charting for
Oh,
30
it's got to be
years.
from, trust me, it's that and the patients themselves, but I just had my shoulder fixed because of patients, but we won't talk about that. So, yes, you have to have, in my opinion, even though technology is a great thing, and it's a wonderful tool, it's just a tool. It's not the best, it's not the only system, so I appreciate that, and that's a really extremely important piece of this. So my last question to you, Mr. Stamper, is, as Mrs. Schmidt mentioned, the white goods you can pick up, but do they need so that's the stoves, the refrigerator, well, I know you don't pick up a refrigerator, that's a little large, but the stoves or things that are big, you said that they can be picked up the same day, but do they need a separate call to you or to anyone else to be
So-
picked up?
I'm not quite sure, I didn't, memory of the RFP. However, the RFP
Okay.
states it to be done, will be done. Some municipalities, we
Mm-hmm.
roll through and we pick them up as long as we're following EPA guidelines and the freon's removed and everything's done properly. Some cities are done differently.
Okay,
So as well as I am familiar with the RFP, 100%, I believe we're just picking
okay.
it up.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so
We're just
appreciate
picking it
that.
up.
So they can be, so do the residents need to make a call to anyone specifically, through the chair to Mr. Moore on that question?
No call necessary. It'll be routed directly, as Mr. Stamper said, on their smart tablet. They'll just press a button on there, and it'll automatically inform that driver of the bulk truck to visit that location.
Okay, perfect. Okay, those are all my questions for everybody. I'll just make a couple statements. Again, I'm not super thrilled about a 10-year contract only because we're so locked in, but I do appreciate that we do have some guarantees and some fail-safes with the performance metrics. And so that does make me happy with that. I did hear that we're getting all new trucks. I guess I do want to have one more question to Mr. Stamper. We're getting all new trucks, all new equipment, so that helps me understand that we will not have as many, if any, breakdowns. Okay. All right, then I'm going to be probably improving this. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor Taylor.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Sarowski. Mrs. Koski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Stamper, I have a couple questions for you. Just would like to clarify a few things. Now, your main office is in Clinton Township. That's where your
Correct.
technology and everything is set
That's where the
up.
technology center is. Yes, ma'am.
Whereabouts in Clinton Township?
So on the Hall Road and Romeo Plank, where the Huntington Bank is, back in the back, 45,000 River Ridge Drive, so kind of behind the Cadillac dealership. There's a Huntington Bank right on the corner there, back in there.
So within 10 minutes of Sterling Heights?
Yes, it was, the way the crow flies, it was 4 miles from here to my office, but looping around Hall Road to Van Dyke and through, I think it took me about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Now, clarify for me, your yard is in Auburn Hills or Rochester?
So the yard's located in Auburn, right next to the GM plant, so between the two landfills.
You're not purchasing a new yard or anything?
No, we were leasing the yard.
Okay,
Long-term
that's
lease.
what you've had for the last 5 years?
No. This is a new yard we had been looking at prior to even this RFP coming out. We were expanding in the north anyways with Bloomfield Township and a lot of our north work. We were in a temporary yard that we leased and through growth, it was time. And so we have been looking for yards for a couple of years.
So you purchased this new one?
No, we leased it, ma'am.
You leased it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but that is already taken care of?
Correct.
Okay, you've been in business for 5 years?
Priority is going on, it's at 5 years, yes, going on 6 here shortly.
Now, I didn't catch all the different contracts that you have that are local around here. Utica,
Correct?
and who else?
So in greater Metro Detroit, in Wayne County, we have Taylor,
No,
Westland.
I'm talking about.
Just locally,
Just within arm's reach.
just in Arms Reach, New Baltimore, Utica, and then a little bit north, like, is a lot of our subscription work. So Washington Township, which is contracted, and then north of that, it's mostly subscription work.
Yeah.
That would be local.
So how long have you had those contracts?
Washington Township, we've had coming up on a year. New Baltimore, we've had 5 years. No, 3 years. We're just renewing with them. Utica, I think we're on our third.
Okay. And do they all have the same service that you're offering us? The carts, recycling, yard
Utica is
waste?
carded, New Baltimore's carded recycling only, and they're making the same transitions that your city is. They're correct in stating that that's the way everybody's going. It promotes cleaner recycling, keeps the garbage cleaner on the curb, as well as the safety for the drivers. The less guys that, and gals that are hanging on the back of a truck, the safer it is. For me, it's all safety personally, right? It's dangerous. It's dangerous having people on the back of the truck. And the secondary is the benefit to the city for cleanliness and the promoted recycling for sustainability. And I think it's Part 115 that they passed, and the pressure they're putting on the cities to get better at recycling.
Now, I don't know if it's proper to even ask this, but I'm
It's
going
okay.
to anyway. Your cost, or I should say your compensation from them, is it similar to what you're asking for from us?
So I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what each city's at. We look at each city differently in how we bid. We run it through a complete system based on historical data of how we operate versus our efficiencies, and as we continue to gain efficiencies through density, through lot sizes, you know, if a house is every acre, if it's every 40 feet, there's many reasons. I don't look at, the first thing I don't want to look at is what I'm doing next door and what my competitors are doing. What are our internal operating costs? What do we need to succeed? And what benefits can we give to the cities? That's how we start our bid process.
So each one is unique.
I'm sure they're within, you know, reason of each other, but for me to tell you you're priced like Utica or you're priced like New Baltimore or you're priced here, everything's different.
Well, my main thought was similar in cost. You base it on what your efforts are to service that community.
Correct. We look at size, density, how much we can get off the ground and how safely we can do it and how efficient we can do it. And we back it into an algorithm that tells us, and we're pretty good at it. And that's how we base the pricing for your city.
You have currently 300 employees, correct?
A little more than that now, but pretty close. Yes, ma'am.
How many are you going to have to hire if you get Sterling Heights contract?
Well, we already have current people on our payroll that want to do Sterling Heights that live here, so we would certainly offer that to them first. The production you would get out of your own citizens in their own town would be much better. We had a lot of success with that in Flint, a lot of pride in that. So the total employee count could be as high as 30, but we have a little more than half of that internal right now that wants to move over. So we're kind of shuffling some things around.
So if you receive Sterling Heights contract, you would be able to use seasoned employees?
Correct.
They wouldn't be brand-new employees?
They may be new to our payroll, but they would be vetted to make sure they were in the industry for a long time. We wouldn't put a new driver in a new city on a new start date. It's note to say that we also have a launch team. So there's 7 individuals that have been in the industry a long time that are some of the best in the business, and they go to every city we go into. And we don't put them in trucks because we don't want the other drivers to think that they, you know, that they have someone helping them. They're inside the truck with those drivers. This is a full-on team effort. We don't launch things in a manner of, here's 18 trucks, 18 drivers, good luck. We take this very seriously.
18 trucks. How many are you purchasing to service Sterling Heights? 17, 18?
No, I said, I think we have 22 or 23 that are block ordered because we always keep spares for each municipality. And another thing we do too that sometimes is a little different than some industry standard is our drivers stay in that community. They don't cross town traffic. We don't do routes, we do cities. So a lot of companies, the drivers are like, you know, I did my route. Our drivers aren't programmed that way. We do cities. So if there is a breakdown or there is an issue or anything happens, they work as a team. Everything's based off like militant. Everybody has teams, everyone works together, and we have an amazing culture.
What I meant was you are going to be purchasing 17 or 18 new trucks.
I'm going to purchase 23 new trucks, is
New
what
truck.
I apologize if I wasn't clear.
Okay,
We will have spares, is what I meant.
okay.
Yes.
And how long before you get those?
They'll be here in January or February. We already block order, so we already, who we purchase our trucks through already has their orders through the main manufacturers, the OEMs. So they should be here in January or February.
Okay, if I remember correctly, reading your contract, in the event that we awarded you this contract and we needed you to step in ahead of time, that you are capable of doing that. Is that correct or not correct?
No, that would be correct, because we have the ability to rent trucks. So within 24 hours' notice, we can have trucks here.
Okay. One-man trucks, what about yard waste?
2-man, 3-man during heavy season.
Okay, so the one-man is for
Carted service,
waste?
recycling. Some waste trucks, if we can, we'll start to identify your city as the systems, with the artificial intelligence, they're studying your garbage flow. So we can actually pick pockets of people that may have more compost or more bulk. And if it's a consistent area that has more bulk, we would have another person in the vehicle, so they'll run bulk with the Corrado as well. It's about efficiencies. So the systems will tell us.
Okay, you have a family that has 5 children and one cart is not going to do it. How do you pick up 2 carts with a one-man truck?
Because that truck has arms on the side and picks it up, throws it in the front, and then it grabs the other one, throws it in the front, and then it lifts over the top and empties in the back when the front's full.
Okay.
It's fully automated, ma'am. There's not guys, yeah, but even if it was, we have rear load trucks where you have a driver and a thrower, and he grabs the can, there's a hook on the back, it dumps it, moves it, grabs another can. They're not picking the can up and hoofing it in a truck.
So the carts have to be set side by side then, so that the truck can
Yeah,
pick
the
it
carts
up?
generally need to be side by side, not sitting on top of a mailbox, not with a parked car in front of it. There are some standards that, and honestly, I know it can be nerve-wracking, but we've done this a lot, and it's not that bad. I
Yeah,
appreciate.
I have a hard time moving the cart.
Yep.
$180 charged to seniors or someone 67 or older who has difficulty maneuvering the cart. What if they have more than one cart? Does that price go up?
So we weren't asked that question when we were putting that portfolio together, but if they had 2 carts and it was within reason, we would pick it up. We're not trying to take advantage of seniors or anybody with any type of situation. The only reason we charge that is it's a separate truck and it's dedicated to that person, and there's cost to that. There's not a lot of room actually in that. We try to be as favorable to those folks as possible.
What if what I'm referring to is, let's say that they're big on recycling.
Sure.
So they've got the cart for the waste and they have the cart for the recycling. So
Correct.
you would send out 2 separate carts or 2 separate trucks?
So we do this system in Bloomfield right now. So depending on his stops a day, he'll do the garbage in the morning, goes and dumps, comes back and does the same route and picks up the recycling. It depends how many people are involved. If there's 1,000 people that sign up, if there's 400 people, if there's 200 people, can he pick up that day's allotment in trash, go dump it and come back and pick up the recycling? Then it would be done that way. If it's going to call for 2 trucks, then it would be 2 trucks. It all depends on how many people would sign up for it.
Sterling Heights is aging.
Yep, I understand. I
Okay.
get it.
I read in here that there is an increase of 2 to 3% per year.
It's correct. Standard inflation increases. It's pretty common in most contracts.
So this is going to be based on rate of inflation, or is it just?
It's a standardization
An
of-
automatic 3% every year?
It's an automatic. It's an automatic increase every year of
Of
3%.
3%.
That is correct.
regardless of what the rate of inflation is?
Well, over a 10-year period, as we all been around quite a long time, in that ebb and flow of that time, it always catches up, but yes. So if you might have 1 or 1.5, look what we faced in the last 4, 20. So
What
we might catch
happens-
up a few years, but it all levels out.
What happens if we go through what we did a few years back? A little mini recession? Will you be giving any discounts?
We would have to view it. I can't tell the future, ma'am. I look at anything. I mean, if the council brought something and said, hey, we have this or this, I would say, hey, I have this or this. I'm always willing to listen and be reasonable.
Well, that's my concern about the 10-year contract is, heaven forbid, if we go into a mini recession again or a full-blown recession, I don't want to be paying a contract at 3% increase where I'm cutting pays and laying off people.
It would depend on what kind of recession it is. I mean, some recessions, employee wages go through the roof, gas prices go up before it levels out, so you could have to backfill that. So that's what this is based off of. But again, I don't know what's going to happen next year and 3 years. This is a standardization in the majority of contracts you see, 3%. I've seen them as high as 5%. We're at 3%, and that's what we have. If the if-come happens, I'm always willing to sit down and speak about a tragedy together.
Well, that's why I'm concerned about a 10-year contract. That's why if I had my way, you'd only get a 3-year contract.
And in 3 years, it could flip, and you could actually be higher. So I think the risk-reward here is, with the discounts, we put forth our best effort to make the city feel comfortable. And with the fact that if we aren't producing or doing a good job, that you have the ability to cancel. So if you kind of weigh out historically where we're at and where we're going, I can see your concern, but weighing it out, I think the benefit outweighs the concern.
I've had experience with 5-year contracts, and I don't like them. What if a home chooses not to recycle? Will you still bill the city for that?
This contract said
Entity.
that every home has recycling offered, and it would be billed for that. The question was posed earlier, and if a homeowner refuses, we try to educate that homeowner. We had some things like that happen in Westland, and through encouragement and through proper teaching, and we actually had a company, Westland had a company go out and was able to increase their recycling by 37%. And we've got a good relationship with that company, so education's best.
Yeah, that's what we should have been doing for the last 5 years, but we didn't do it. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Koski. Mr. Yanes?
Yeah, thank you. No, you know what? You've been standing a long time. I got a couple questions for the city manager, so you take a break. Thank you. I'll call you. So, through the chair to the city manager, where did the amount, $150,000 for the recycling center come from? Can you break that down for me?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll call on Mr. Moore. He did the analysis, and he'd be happy to break it down.
Thank you. Mr. Moore.
Mr. Moore?
Sure. The analysis comes from historical data of vehicle repair, what the vehicles cost to repair and maintain the vehicles, employee wages, and then also removal of the dumpsters of recycled items, and then any maintenance to the grounds itself at the recycle center.
Okay, so the dumpsters, or the, what do you call them? The things that we pull up on the
Compactors
phone.
or dumpsters, trailers.
Trailers, yeah. I mean, do we own those? Do we lease those?
We own the trailers.
Okay.
But they're commonly in for repair. The dumpsters, we don't own the dumpsters, but it's through our current vendor that they swap them out for us, nor do we own the compactor back at the DPW because we collect everything at the recycle center.
Okay.
Plastics specifically, we have to then trailer all of the plastics back to the DPW, empty them into the compactor, compact it, then bring the empty trailer back to the recycle center.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm going to try again, Mr. City Manager. Who is going to be responsible for $75,000 education program? What's that going to look like?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll be working with our Community Relations Department, also the contractor, certainly DPW, and it'll be multifaceted. We'll be explaining certainly the universal curbside recycling program, the benefits of that, why it's important to recycle, what you can recycle. We'll also be explaining that increasing your recycling will reduce the need to have multiple carts. You know, a lot of people know this, but other people just need some refreshers and good education. So it'll be a full-blown campaign. It'll be multifaceted, and we'll be working on it for months to get it ready to go. It'll also include videos. It will include direct mailers. It will include water billing inserts, sort of a public announcement type of outreach. So it'll cover the gamut. So we have the ability to touch through our listservs and social media and the like, close to 100,000 people, almost instantaneously through technology. So we'll be utilizing that, and also town hall forums for seniors and others. As you know, we do that pretty well, and so that'll be included.
Okay. I was thinking about the video we shot for the drop box for the ballot drop boxes. And I think that was a very helpful medium to let people know not only did they exist, but how they work. And I certainly think that we have the capabilities here to shoot some high-quality videos that could really be helpful for folks. And then the last thing I have for a city manager is for those of us who contract right now with GFL for a bin for recycling, how are those bins going to get returned? Is there a plan yet?
Yes, again, I'll call on DPW Director, Mr. Moore, with those details.
We've had some preliminary discussions about that, and I believe the most recent invoice did have a end date of April 30th. So we'll probably have to put out some communication as well in regards to the recent conversation about education of how those carts will be collected, but I suspect all residents who currently subscribe will receive some type of communication of their last service date to where it'll be serviced and then removed.
Say that last part again?
Every subscriber that owns or that uses the cart will receive some type of communication of their last service date.
Okay.
To where it'll be serviced and then removed, because they'll eventually be, if this is approved, eventually be receiving a new recycling cart.
They're going to get some direction to like leave it out on the curb or?
Exactly.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Stamper. Thank you.
It's a murderer's row.
You didn't realize you're going to get quite the workout. Before I get to you, Mr. Stamper, I apologize. Stay, don't move. I did want to say thank you to your staff for the work you did, and Ms. Jamison, thank you for all the work that you did on this contract. It's a big contract. It's very complicated. Ms. Varney, thank you as well. So, Mr. Stamper, we here in Sterling Heights have taken on a journey for both sustainability and diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm looking at your website right now, and I don't see either one of those topics listed on your website. If I go to GFL or Waste Management, they talk about both sustainability and diversity, equity, and inclusion. I firmly believe, and this is probably the biggest contract, Ms. Varney, correct me if I'm wrong, this is probably the biggest contract that we have.
I would agree.
And that the people that we work with should share our values. So if you could talk a little bit about, about both of those topics and your approach to them, and if we're going to see anything in the future from your company on both sustainability and diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Certainly. So on the sustainability portion, we're consistently working with federal, state, and local governments in all forms and facets, any rules or anything as far as sustainability, in helping in and the ability to recycling, carbon footprint. We just helped the Detroit Grand Prix receive its gold standard in racing. They missed platinum by 3 points due to the food vendor refusing to properly bring the food to us. We're pretty proud of that. That's based on carbon footprint, how the materials are recycled, how they're diversion from landfills. On the equity inclusion, please, in a society where everybody keeps it so open and forceful on how they treat people, I hire people for who they are. If they're good people, they're smart people. I find it in some form or fashion discriminatory myself to hire someone for any race reasons. I wasn't raised that way. I grew up in the 90s. We all hung out in Detroit. We all hung out with everybody. We didn't really have a lot of today's standards in that. Although I respect the city and any company that feels they want to promote the fact that they hire people for any other reason than they're really good at their job. But as far as diversity, we have a lot of diversity. I don't know what you saw on a website. I don't know if there's pictures, but you're welcome to visit any of our yards. There's a lot of good people that come in many forms and colors and different backgrounds. But for me personally, I don't judge people by how they look. I judge them by who they are. And if that's the wrong answer, then I apologize.
Well, there's no wrong answer here. And I will say that certainly the industry as a whole tends to be a more diverse industry, at least racially, but there's a lot more to DEI than that, but that's not what we're here to talk about. But maybe that's a conversation that you and your team can have. So you're leasing a yard in Auburn Hills. Where do you tip your garbage at? Trash. I'm sure. Where do we tip our trash at?
So I have long-term agreements with WM. They own multiple landfills all over the place. I have subsidiary agreements with Republic. Both of their landfills are right next to the yard. We also own, well, currently now we own, because we just bought 2 today, 4 transfer stations in the state. One of them's one of the largest ones in the city of Detroit. It's open 24/7. It's licensed that way. It's one of the only 24/7 transfer stations. So if there's an emergency and the landfills are closed, we're not. And we control it. So that transfer station does almost 2,000 tons a day. And we own and control all our own trucking to the landfills. So we have the capability to move a lot of garbage.
And one truck comes to the city, well, one truck per route, or however you set it up. The trucks that come to Sterling Heights, they come here, they're done, and then they go back and tip their load, or do they come back again? Are they making more than one trip between Auburn Hills and Sterling Heights, or wherever you don't?
So it depends. If our transfer station would be closer for the 14 and chainer type area versus, out this way. It's all based on density. So either way, the final landing spot would be either Pine Tree out of our transfer station, which is up by Port Huron, or Eagle Valley over by Auburn Hills, or if for density reasons, we want to go to our transfer station in the quadrants of that 14 in Shane or 14 in Van Dyke up that way. If it's closer for us to go to our transfer station, we're going to go there. We're going to do whatever is the most efficient, and the computer systems will route that all out. We put all our dump sites in those computer systems, how many trucks, how many houses, and it's basically similar software to Amazon. It's going to tell us turn by turn the absolute fastest way. If we don't want to take left turns, we can delete left turns. We can take all right turns. There's so many things you can do with it.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, I apologize.
Who do you use for compost waste?
Compost, we have four different places that we dump, and we would put that, and maybe 5, and we would put that in the system, and it would tell us routing versus if we were going east, west, if it was on south or north side.
But they're all like Lapeer, St. Clair, right?
No, some of them are, there's one in, up by Pine Tree, and then we also have our own composting yard at our transfer station, and we can do unlimited tonnage out of there. So I can bring compost back to my yard, pack it, and ship it anywhere.
In Detroit?
Yeah.
How many acres is that?
That parcel's about 3.5 or 4, and it has a scale, but we dump and reload. So if for density reasons and for cost efficiency, if it was better for us to dump there to get back on route, We load that in 100-yard trailers and we'd ship it out wherever. It would have
You
no
don't-
effect.
I'm sorry, you don't actually compost there? You
No.
just don't? Okay.
No,
All right.
we would transfer.
All right.
But ultimately, in looking in preliminaries, they would go to compost. It would be direct drive to compost.
Can I ask what your tipping fees are at the compost site?
I don't know that I can disclose that. I highly doubt it.
It's a secret.
Nice try.
Maybe I don't even know. I'm looking at the lawyer. Normally, we don't disclose what we pay.
I can call them up and find out what they'll charge me, so I can just
I would
sort of
hope I'd be paying a
extrapolate
little
that.
less, but.
I would hope you would pay a lot less for that. And I'll explain the reason why I'm asking that at the end of this thing. We talked a little bit about the assistance program, $180 a year. I do want to point out in the presentation, Mr. Moore's presentation, the senior lady rolling the cart down there, that her house had a tile roof, so I'm assuming it doesn't snow where she lives. So, that's obviously a concern, with senior citizens in the wintertime, getting their carts down, and I appreciate the fact that you'll have one, maybe two drivers.
Sure.
That will help if need be, right? Yep. Correct, okay, all right. I'll take your word on that. Do you have an education specialist?
We work with 3 different people, plus we have internally people that write grants. So we're deeply involved in helping our municipalities not only get access to any monies available for education, but also companies that specialize in it. When Mr. Vanderpool talked about an effort, we found what some of the bigger cities that we have in Wayne County, and even working with Flint right now, that they're so good at what they do that it's beneficial to have outside people that do this every day for a living to come in and guide us in it. Although we've picked up a lot from them for efficiency reasons, for their scalability, trackability, that bringing somebody in on the education piece outside of us talking at schools or mailers or social media, it's a good idea.
So right now, you don't go into like elementary schools and talk about recycling?
Oh, absolutely.
You do?
Sure,
Okay,
sure,
you do.
sure. Yeah, I do it.
You do it?
Yeah, I like to do it. I'm personable. I like the kids. And I don't know, I connect with them because you can bring realities of the kid that goes, it goes in a landfill anyways, whatever. I enjoy it. But we do have, Zach in our department and Skylar are both, Skylar, she's the Ohio State University grad.
I'm sorry.
I know, but she's really good, and she went through environmental studies, and she's really super good at education. So we try not to hold that against her, but that just is what it is.
Okay.
It's my inclusion.
Your inclusion.
It's my inclusion.
And going back to the facilities.
Go Blue.
The facilities that you use, you use multiple MRFs or?
We do. Currently, WM is building, I think, a $50 million MRF in Detroit. It should be done in '25. It's going to be state-of-the-art. It's really good. Hard to compete with those guys. They're so good at what they do. I understand with the bidding process that maybe on the residential side, but they're just so far advanced with the MRFs they're building, and they do such a good job. We also, give Soccer credit, Republic. So we have multiple MRFs that we dump at.
Do you ever look at your reviews on Google?
Bloomfield Township asked me that. They're like, you should get in there and respond to them. And you know what? Ask me about the reviews and I'll tell you. In today's society of social media, if you chased every review, it's insanity.
Well, the reason why I bring that up.
Sure.
And I agree with you on that part, but the reason why I bring that up, because I think all of us up here at one point have gotten a call about, they came to pick up my recycling and they just dumped it in with the rest of the garbage.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And we hear that, the recycling truck wasn't available that day, and so they used the trash truck for the recycling. So is that something that you do?
So the last situation we had was in East Point, and it was more of a setup. Why, I don't know. People don't have stuff to do. And the cameras proved it wrong. Do mistakes happen? Absolutely. But the cameras tell the story. So the driver, myself, not anybody, especially with access to it. So is it a common practice? No. We have separate recycling trucks, especially in large communities like yours, where the garbage guy is not going to do half the city, go dump, and then go back and pick up the recycling. You guys are a little different setup. The last time I can remember where it was a proven fact that, with video was Westland. It was 4th of July weekend last year. I believe 4th of July was on maybe a Friday or Saturday. Recycling truck said I'm packed out. He had to leave to go back to Murph to dump. It was 5 o'clock, and the garbage guy said on his own, hey, you got 10 houses left on your house, I'll just grab them. We went in front of city council, we showed them the video and said, no, you're not supposed to do that. But in all human error of it all, it was 4th of July weekend. We wrote them up, re-education, we did not terminate the employee.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
How does somebody file a complaint or a concern with your company currently?
So every city works differently, but we prefer that the residents just call because every call's monitored. The phone systems have AI too, so they'll start to learn where somebody's located. So the phone systems, Jody, Renee, answer every call. And they send it right to their LDC. It goes right into a portal. Sterling Heights has a portal complaint. You guys can log right into it. It shows every call, how long that call was, what the problem was, if it was a missed stop, and we tell you everything we do, good, bad, and indifferent. We tell you everything. We don't hide from any missed stops. We don't do anything.
I'm more concerned about somebody trying to get a hold of you because they have either complaint or something got missed.
They call the main number and people answer the phone.
Somebody will actually answer the phone.
Yeah, they answer the phone, like Priority Waste.
Because if you don't answer the phone, Mr. Moore has to answer the phone.
I understand how that works.
Okay. So I think we already talked about this, but I'm going to bring it up again.
Sure.
There are people who they either don't believe in recycling or they don't want to do curbside recycling. I'm assuming that as this moves forward, you're just dropping bins off, right? Mr. Moore? I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Through the chair.
Through the chair to Mr. Moore.
Yes, we would, as the transition takes place, carts will be delivered to every residence. They do have a number on the cart, so it's tracked when it was delivered to each house for refuse and for recycling.
So what happens if somebody absolutely doesn't want a recycle bin, absolutely refuses it? You're going to come back and pick it up, or?
So I can tell you, no, because the city's mandating that they have cans and that they recycle. So everything would be case by case. First of all, I would never refuse the city if you guys called me and said, we need to figure this out. But I will tell you this. Dearborn Heights, multicultural community, 6 different languages, and in a matter of a year, we went from, I think about an 18% clean recycling, and right now, we're getting at about 40% clean. Everyone's recycling now, but we're still working on getting it clean. So even the most stubborn of the stubborn that don't believe in anything, they're always going to be out there, but I don't think you're going to see the numbers that you may think you're going to see. I think most people, especially in Sterling Heights, are going to be open-minded to the fact that this is good. And we'll have to take some things on a case-by-case basis. Honestly, again, I don't have a crystal ball. I've seen some weird things happen. But if we all work together and we're open-minded, we figure it out. It shouldn't be too hard.
And I'm going to bring back up sustainability.
Sure.
From what I read in the backup material, that your trucks can't be more than 5 years old that are in the city?
They'll be brand new, so
But we're talking about a 10-year contract. So 5 years from now, you're going to all brand-new trucks?
I'd have to check the verbiage on that. I think that it states that the trucks coming into the city right now cannot be any more than 5 years old. I don't recall if it states in 5 years we're buying new trucks. These Corrados and these new style trucks, if properly maintained, can last a while. But we're not looking to put any bad equipment in any neighborhood.
Through the chair to the city attorney, is that what that says, or am I misunderstanding what I'm reading?
Mr. Koszybski.
Well, now you're going to make me have to go back. So
Absolutely.
Look at the contract, I'll come back to
Get in the Wayback Machine and go way back. You, Mr. Peabody.
Why don't you ask a couple more questions and I'll come back to me?
Okay, I think that was my last question.
I can jump in.
You know what? Mr. Moore can answer.
Mr. Moore can
Yeah,
answer
I
that.
believe the contract reads that no truck in the city shall be older than 5 years. However, we do have the ability as well, too, that if a truck looks to be in disrepair, dirty, that we can request that that truck be cleaned up, maintained, things like that. So there are some provisions in there specifically related to the condition of the vehicle.
So obviously, my concern is the 10-year contract and the 5-year-old trucks. And are we going to see in year 6 that the same trucks are coming in? Or are there going to be new trucks? Are we going to have a conversation about using the same old trucks? I appreciate that those, how much does a truck cost?
Depends.
Well, okay.
Corrados can go,
Yes.
a Corrado style, depends meaning on the style of truck. Corrados can be 400,000, sidearms can be 325, rear packers 2.25.
And you're purchasing those, not leasing them, right?
No, we purchase our trucks.
You purchase your trucks. How many do you job out the repairs, or do you get your own repair folks?
No, we have our own maintenance facilities. My question on the 5-year program, whatever the contract agrees and a priority will adhere to, I have no problem, based on the way we maintain our trucks, that we would, as we grow, we would just bring new trucks into your city. But at the same time, if a truck looked dirty, you can have a 5-year, I have some of our trucks right now that are down in Hamtramck that you wouldn't be able to tell they were 5 years old, but if I'm signing to something that says I will rotate trucks in no older than 5 years, I would adhere to the contract because that's who I am. I would do that. I wouldn't expect the city to go, oh, that truck's 5 years, 1 month old and you cheat. I wouldn't do that.
So
It would be put on a maintenance schedule and that truck would be pulled.
So old and dirty is not where I'm going. Where I am going, though, is the fact that those trucks, they're diesel, right? They burn
Correct.
diesel. And they get about 2.5 miles to the gallon.
About 5 to 6, but close.
5 to 6, well, okay, unloaded 5 to 6, but it's still very expensive. Diesel fuel is very expensive. And they also put out a ton of carbon, right? So if we as a community are trying to lower our footprint, our carbon footprint, you play a big part in that. Anybody who drives around the city plays a big part in that. And so, and for instance, I read an article today about the city of Grand Rapids. They bought a bunch of new vehicles. Some were snow plows, some were street sweepers, some were trash trucks. And they're using different technology that burns cleaner. So they've lowered their carbon footprint by 91.5 metric tons. That's a lot.
I'd have to see the report. There's probably a lot going behind that. Sometimes you have to kind of dig into it. I do know this. I will tell you that an electric truck, might get 322 stops. They weigh a ton, and you would not be able to even remotely afford to pay if your whole city was electric. Doesn't work. Ann Arbor's trying it. Condensed natural gas, a little bit better. Infrastructure's tough, but when you see one hit a bridge and a truck blow up, still scares me a little bit. I really, in working with the Urban Institute, General Motors, or Kettering, GMI, and the fact that we have a relationship with the Urban Institute and Google Track, and at GMI some new diesel biofuels that are coming out, I don't think I'm all in on electric or CNG. I think that we're going to be able to reduce carbon footprint in the future, but as far as sustainability comes in many forms. It's not sustainable if you can't afford it. So that's out the window. So if we put a bunch of battery trucks in here and no one could afford it, wouldn't work. CNG, I told you on that part, CNG, if, WM runs a bunch of CNG trucks, they're all in on CNG. I like the fact what they're doing with some diesel fuels up at Kettering and at the University of Michigan and some of the teams we're working up with there. I'm not a big fan of DEF fuel. I think DEF is maintenance and the things we have to, I don't know if you guys have any DEF systems on your truck, but they passed it, so we have to do it. But I think it's not me as the hauler's responsibility, because I'm not a scientist, to invent this stuff. It's my decision to work on behalf and with cities and myself and my team as a company to put ourselves in the best position to succeed. And battery power's not there yet. The CNG stuff, I'm just not a fan of it yet. And there's another fuel system that I was able to tour last week up at GMI, and it was hydrogen, and that was very interesting. So I think we're getting there, and I think that the reason Article 115, and a lot of people don't even know what it says yet, and we're all trying to figure it out, and I've had some people at the state try to explain it to me. We're getting there, and in a lot of systems, we try to force to get it now, and it's not the right decision. And I think we're seeing that in some of the trauma, what we're going through with the big three right now. I think sometimes we think there's an idea and we jump all in and it's not there yet. So I'm a little patient, Sustainability is on my forefront. I truly believe in recycling. I believe there's a better way. I believe there's always a better way. But I like to see it before I'm all in on it and sit here and tell you guys it's the next greatest thing, and then in 3 years go, yeah, that didn't work. So we know what's tried and true. We know how to pick up garbage. We know how to do it for a reasonable cost to the citizens, while keeping in mind that sustainability is on the forefront, and there's some really smart kids going through college right now, and they're going to give us something awesome to deal with, and I look forward to it.
Well, it may please you to know that CNG actually has a larger carbon footprint because of the front end, not the back end. It burns cleaner in the truck, but it's dirtier to get it out of the ground and get it there. So, but the point being is, and I appreciate your answer, you're very thoughtful. But the point is, if this is a 10-year contract, technology may ramp up over the next 5 years.
Sure.
And we would like to have cleaner burning vehicles. Certainly, we're going to look at them as we buy vehicles, and we would want you, as a contractor, to consider that as well.
I would hope at that time we'd all be working together, and if anything came out, or we're dealing with the University of Michigan or some of the stuff at Kettering, we would be telling you guys the same thing. I think by all of us being open-minded, there is a solution coming that's going to be greater. I just don't think it's been presented yet.
Yeah, I'm all in on hydrogen, so, but.
I like hydrogen.
Yeah.
I do.
Anyways, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
I'm done with you, but I'm not done with you. So, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm just going to close by saying that, this is the largest contract that we let out on a whenever basis. I can't say annual or biannual or whatever. But I really think, and I know the city had us in meetings, and they gave us all the backup material, but something this large that touches every single citizen, every single homeowner in the city of Sterling Heights, I really wish we had taken the time to have a comment period on this. So every citizen, if they had something to say about recycling or waste or sustainability or what have you, had a chance to say something, as opposed to just letting city council just make the decision on its own. So, obviously we won't get a chance to do that again for another 10 years. But I would certainly like to see more input from the citizens, and that is all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Mayor
you.
Taylor?
Well, let Mike give his points first.
I'm happy to defer. Do we need does anybody want a second round?
I do, yes. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
The only thing that I want to bring, thank you, Mayor Taylor. The only thing that I want to add is that the special spring collections have not changed. We're still going to have the hazardous waste, the electronic recycling, and the paper shredding.
Okay.
Mr. Stamper, here's a bottle of water, because after all that, I think you need it.
Okay.
That and $88 million. Wow.
I'll say my piece, and then we can have another brief second round if need be. All right, first and foremost, thank you, Mr. Stamper, for being here and asking questions. I think normally when look, I appreciate that the council's trying to do its job, but I kind of feel like, man, you're getting grilled pretty bad there. And, I look at it more like a 10-year contract should really be a partnership, and I appreciate that, what you've said about whether it's from, what kind of equipment that you would be using, or, what are we going to do about people who can't get the carts up and down the driveway, that we're going to figure that out. We're going to figure that out. And I do know that being in business, being in private business myself, you figure it out. In the government, you kind of say, well, we're going to analyze this, and we're going to have 15 layers of bureaucracy, and we're going to have 1 million studies done about it. No, you just figure it out, and you will. And I have every trust that you will. By the way, my law office is minutes, like a 2-minute walk from you. So I bank at that Huntington, and I'm right down the street. And I don't remember if it was Mrs. Koski. I think it was Mrs. Koski. It takes me like 12 minutes to get here. If I hit every light perfectly, 12 minutes, but sometimes like 16 minutes.
I was going to say, you can do it in 5.
Not from Hall and Romeo Plank. I mean, you gotta, depending on the time of the day, you gotta go east and then west.
Do you have a police light in your car, Mike?
Do I have a police light in my car? No, I don't have a police light in my car. Look, I think you're absolutely right. A 10-year contract, there's risk and reward to a 10-year contract. When we bid out the contract the last time, it was 2016, and it was awarded right in, spring of 2016, and I believe a start date of May 1st, 2016. Can you imagine if we had given a 5-year contract then? Imagine if we had given a 5-year contract and it came up on May 1st, 2021. We would be paying absolutely through the nose, that they would have looked at what was going on and they would have had no idea how to predict the next 5, 6, 10 years, and it would have been a disaster. So, maybe that's not going to be our luck this time, but I think that giving the 8-year contract to GFL the last time really was a great benefit to the residents of the city of Sterling Heights. I think that locking in that lower price was beneficial. And when we went back and looked at it, let's talk about adding recycling, which is what we did back in 2019, 2020, 2021, and we looked at the cost was so much more than what we had gotten for that 8-year period of time. So the residents really benefited from that, and I think they will again. And you can say, well, a lot of things can happen. Yeah, a lot of things did happen, right? A lot of things did happen over those last 8 years. I mean, there was the big thing that happened. There was Rizzo selling to GFL. There was a global pandemic. There was, a worker shortage. There were all kinds of issues that came up, but we got through it. We worked with GFL. We got through it. And I think that's the same thing that would happen here, is that if we go back to the drawing board and say, give us a shorter contract, we're not going to get good pricing. We're not going to get the same pricing. They're obviously going to have to come back with different pricing. So I'm comfortable with the 10-year contract. I think it is going to be a benefit to the residents of Sterling Heights. I think that I don't so much as look at it like, oh, you're raising your rates every year. We know exactly what we're going to get. We're signing a 10-year contract. These are the prices. There's difference in prices from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, but that's going to be the case with any contractor. So I'm very comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with closing the recycling centers. Look, Mr. Moore, I don't know if this question specifically was asked, but do you kind of track, of the 1,000 people that come on a monthly basis, are they usually the same people?
They are, and thank you for asking that question, because I should have clarified that a bit more. Of the 1,000 people that do come to the center, you can almost bet that's probably about 200 people that come 3-4 times to the center. So what you would think as 1,000 visitors could probably be more like 200 visitors, which drops that number of the 2% down to just a handful of people that wouldn't have access to the recycle center now.
Yeah, so even if it's 1,000 unique people and it's that same 1,000 every month, you're talking about 20 people at most. And in all reality, it's probably 5 to 10 people. So, I mean, at $12,500 a month, I just don't think that, we'd be better off, we'd be better off buying a Corvette and having a city employee pick it up from the resident's house and to take it to the recycling center. So, I mean, I don't think that makes any sense to me to keep the recycling center open. We'll work with those apartment complexes and we'll work with the condominiums, and we should find a solution there. That's not a problem, I don't think. I will say I'm very impressed with the technology and the software that was shown to us by Mr. Moore and Mr. Vanderpool, and that was explained here tonight to you as well. As luck would have it, I'm giving a speech about artificial intelligence on Friday. So if anybody wants to be there, please be there. Friday, 8:00 a.m., the Community Center in Sterling Heights. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the way, businesses are going in that direction, and I think that the city has to be going there as well. So even though this is not necessarily city employees and city programs, it is a city vendor, and I'm excited to see where that's going to take us. I would imagine by the end of this 10-year contract, that's going to explode, and there's going to be vastly different systems in place. So I'm excited to see where that's going. And finally, the two things that set this contract apart from the last one are the carts and the recycling. Number one, on the carts, it's done in Shelby Township. It's done in communities across the state and across the country. They figure out a way to do it. I have no doubt that we will be able to figure out a way to do it. Change is always hard. Whenever you tell somebody that the system is changing, they're going to push back on it, and I get that. But over time, I think it's going to be fine. I think that I've used these carts for years. They're easy to maneuver. They're easy, like was said by Mr. Moore. Even a child can maneuver these carts. So I'm very comfortable with that. And the recycling, I think it was the meeting where we awarded the contract 8 years ago to GFL but it might have been a different time. I know there was a time we were talking about this issue and a whole bunch of high school students were in the audience that are now, have graduated college and are working and moved on. But I remember them saying, why are you not adding recycling? Why don't we have universal curbside recycling? We're one of the only cities around that doesn't have universal curbside recycling. So I am very pleased to see this. I think it's long past time that we've called ourselves leaders in Macomb County and beyond, that we've tried to set examples for other communities in what we do. And in this area, we've been lagging behind. So I'm excited to see that that's happening. I am going to be voting yes on this tonight, and I do want to just address the GFL representatives who are here, Don and Joe and the rest of you. It was a pretty interesting 8 years, and I want to say that of all that stuff that happened, every GFL employee and formerly Rizzo employee conducted themselves with the utmost professionalism. You worked through some incredibly difficult times with what happened with Chuck, what happened with the company being sold, what happened with, the pandemic, and all of a sudden everybody's stuck at home and they're cleaning out their garages and they're cleaning out their basements, and you've got mounds and mountains of trash, and you guys handled it. You went through a global pandemic. As I said, nobody wanted to show up to work, and you worked around that and you figured it out. And there were bumps along the way, but I think you guys did an exemplary job. You were just, a true partner to the city. And I thank you for the work that you did for us. And I'm proud that you have a presence in the city of Sterling Heights. I'm sad to see that the relationship looks like it's likely coming to an end. At the end of the day, the numbers here are just too stark. They're just too far apart. And I'm not sure that gap could be bridged through any sort of creative process of, just let's get through the next year or two. That there's no guarantee that we'll be better off with this contract than the alternative, which would be, I guess, sticking with you guys for a period of time. But the reality is that especially when you're dealing with the public's money and when you're dealing with this type of a contract, this amount, to be able to lock in the type of savings that we would be able to by going with priority, it's something that I think is something I have to do. And so I do, sincerely want to thank you guys for being here tonight. It can't be easy. I enjoyed the partnership. I think you were phenomenal, good partners to have. And I wish every employee of GFL and the company GFL a lot of continued success long into the future. The reality is I think we need companies that are not Waste Management and Republic, that we need companies that can compete and can be successful out there, because it keeps every company, better. It provides better services for residents throughout, not just Sterling Heights, but from Metro Detroit. So I do wish you guys success, and thank you again for everything that's happened. So, all right, so I'm voting yes. Is there anybody else that wants a second to go around? Just Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, to the city attorney, I was disheartened by one of the comments the Representative Mr. Stamper from Priority said, that they do not subscribe to diversity, equity, and inclusion, nor do they have a plan. Could we require as part of our contract that they abide by a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan? The city is on our journey. This is our largest contract. It touches every single home in the city of Sterling Heights. And I guess I'm a little bit frustrated that our largest contract and our largest contractor, one that deals with every resident, might not subscribe to the values that we say that we are pushing forward right now significantly. I guess through the chair to the city attorney, can we require that as part of our contract?
Mr. Kaszubski.
We have not negotiated a specific D&I plan. Most businesses have their own or will implement their own. However, under the contract, they are required to follow all state and federal laws, which include non-discrimination laws with respect to sex, sexual orientation, disability, age, you name it. And they're required under the contract to follow that. So that if they want to create their own DE&I program, it wouldn't be normally something I would negotiate.
Well, I would argue that this is a perfect example why we need a responsible contracting ordinance in Sterling Heights. Because we are publicly saying that we are moving forward with a plan here in Sterling Heights to make sure that every resident has a seat at the table. And now we're negotiating a contract with a contractor who says that he doesn't abide by that. And I think that that's very frustrating. And so I guess what I'm going to do right now, and I agree with Mr. Yanez, that a public comment period, I think, would be most appropriate. I'd like to hear what our African American Coalition has to say. I'd like to hear what our, all of our committees, Sustainability Commission would have to say. So I'm going to move to postpone deliberation on this contract to November 7th to hopefully get a few more answers to some of the questions that were asked tonight, and to hopefully come up with a D&I plan to make sure that the contractor is fulfilling our city goals. So I would move right now to postpone to the November 7th city council meeting.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Ms. Riska, can we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Kosky?
Yes.
Mr. Radke?
Yes.
Mrs. Schmidt?
No.
Mrs. Sarowski?
No.
Mayor Taylor?
No.
Mr. Yanez?
Yes.
Mrs. Yarko?
No.
Okay, motion fails 4-3. Mr. Radke.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, anyone else on a second bite? Okay, I'm going to say this. I mean, what are we even talking about? What exactly are we even talking about? Well, how do we put a DE&I clause into their contract? What is the expectation? What are they? I mean, look, I get it. And the city is doing its part, and the city has studied this issue, and the city is hiring a DEI director or officer. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. But, you know, I think there's a lot of value when the police officer who's pulling you over, or when the person who's collecting your property taxes at City Hall, when the people who are making policies, I think there's value to the community when they're somewhat reflective of the community that they're serving. I mean, I don't mean to denigrate what you do, sir. They're picking up trash. They're picking up trash. What I want is I want trucks that work, I want a price that makes sense, and I want the trash picked up from my house. And now you can ask the African American Coalition, you can ask the Sustainability Commission, you can ask 134,000 residents, and I think you're going to get close to 134,000 of them that are going to say, I want my trash to be picked up. That's it. That's what we want. So this is a company that's got references. It's a company that's got incredible technology that they're using. They're buying brand new trucks. They're going to have employees from the city of Sterling Heights servicing them. They've got a call center, and they've got all of this implemented to provide an incredibly high level of service. And I think sometimes we lose sight of the forest for the trees. We can make progress and make the world a better place for everybody of every different race and religion and color and creed. But I don't think we should lose sight of, like, we're picking up trash here. That's the job. That's what I want. And I bet you if I talk to everyone in my neighborhood and beyond, they don't care what the person in the truck looks like. They don't care what the person on the phone looks like. They don't care what the person sitting in the C-suite looks like. They want their trash picked up. And that's what we're doing here. So I'm voting yes. Mrs. Riska, can we please have a roll call vote on the motion to approve the contract?
Yes. Mr. Radke?
No.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mrs. Sarowski?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Yanez?
Yes.
Mrs. Yarko?
Yes.
Kowski.
No.
All right, motion carries 5-2. Congratulations, Mr. Stamper, and to your team and Priority. And again, thank you to GFL and the folks that are here for the work that they've done. We look forward to working with you. You're welcome. Okay,
It's 9:30.
we're gonna,
Residents.
you know what, can we take a 5-minute recess? Take a 5-minute recess. We will come back and we will go to communications from citizens next. So it's 9:44. We'll be back at 9:50 PM. Okay, calling this meeting back to order. Folks, I know you're here for a liquor license, but based on our council rules, at 9:30, we have to go to communications from citizens. Good news is, there appears to be 3 people total. So I'm going to go to communications from citizens, and then once they have an opportunity to talk, we'll go right to you, okay? So I will open up the floor for communications from citizens. This is anything you want to talk about relating to city business that was not on the agenda tonight.
Maybe just one.
It's my dinner.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Koszewski, Mr. Vanderpool, and City Council.
SDNF Joseph.
I have a couple of things to talk about tonight. First, I want to thank the members of, I know nobody's here, but hopefully they'll get the message from our code enforcement, code enforcement department. I think they've done a fantastic job in our neighborhood, solving some issues with some neighbors that weren't taking care of their property. Now they've done a much better job, to put that plainly. Oh, by the way, for those who don't know me, my name's Wally Bronson. I live on 36239 Melbourne Drive, and I love the city. Secondly, I want to personally thank the couple of members of the building department, Tony from the electrical department, is an inspector, and Josh from the building department that helped with our project that we've been working on. Wonderful people. Our solar project that we've been talking about for years between the boss, my wife, and I, started in May of 2023. The question we had was, can we do this? To completion of this August of the 24th, it took approximately 4 months for everything, all the permits, everything that needed to be issued and whatever. With the information that we found out through City Council about Michigan Saves and the money that was granted to us from them, we couldn't have done it without them. Okay, so thank you, everybody that was involved in that, or indirectly or directly. Anyhow, we are up and running, and that's, besides the knucklehead standing there with the thumbs up, that's what our system looks like. And I have been looking forward to doing this for at least 45 years, and finally been able to do it. Next year, we are looking into.
A bit much.
They can zoom out. Effect here.
Next year, we're really considering getting the battery backup to go on top of it. So, again, I just want to say thank you very much for everything you guys have done for us, for our project. And my wife, she would have been on the roof with the picture, but she's afraid of heights. Thank you again.
You're welcome, thank you. Anyone else on communications from citizens?
Good evening. I've never been to a city council meeting. I wasn't expecting so much trash talk. My name is Brian Randall. I am a 20-plus year resident of Sterling Heights, second homeowner. Brand new house. I live at the corner of 12143 Jode Point, which is Jode Point and Linda Lane on Maple Lane, which I just found out my road's getting torn up, so that's great too, because I looked at the agenda. There's a new development that's behind us between 2 different builders. The construction trucks have been cutting through our neighborhood, which is about 7 years old, and have torn up the corner of my yard. It's been going on 2 years now. I've alerted the building enforcement codes and the engineering department. I'm told I'm on several folks' blotter, that it's going to be taken care of whenever the whole development's done. So I've been going on 2 years now with my yard torn up. And they've told me at some point in time, the builder has agreed that they're going to fix the sidewalk because it's now all cracked because the heavy trucks have driven across it. I can't mow the corner of my yard anymore because the ruts are so deep. I was told, please don't go and talk to the city council. That's why I'm here. Yeah. Because that development, the way they're going right now, there's about half the lots that haven't even been built yet. So I'm guessing I'm about another 2 years on not being able to mow my yard, that corner, because the ruts are so deep, I can't mow it. So the weeds are getting about as high as the table. Just had our homeowners association meeting, and one of the neighbors, when we were talking about enforcing our rules for the homeowners association, said, when are we gonna talk to the guy on the corner? At which point, the whole board looked at me, the president, and said, well, and I said, I'm working with the city. Whenever they're all done, they've promised they're gonna come fix it. Until then, I just keep being told, be patient. And I've been patient for about 2 years now. So the last offer was the builders offered to cement the corner in. I said, that's not gonna happen. I've offered to buy a boulder and put it there. I was told the city will not allow that. I offered to put fence posts in. The city will not allow that. I said, can you come and put a cement barrier there so the trucks can't come through? The city won't allow that. At one point, they said, we're going to shut the road down so construction traffic can't go through there. That was about 6-7 months ago. So I don't know what the solution is. I just wanted to come and say, as a 20-plus year citizen of Sterling Heights, this is what's going on in my little corner of the world. And I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Do you mind giving your name, we got your name, Brian Randall, but give your phone number and email address to our city clerk. Our city manager was taking notes while you were talking, and there is a solution, and we'll find it, and we'll take care of it. Okay, we'll work with you and make sure it gets addressed. And sorry you've been dealing with that.
Keep telling me it's going to get addressed if I'm just patient once everything's done. But here's the, I'm sorry.
I get it.
Everybody else's yards in the new development is going in. Their sidewalks are all going in. Their houses look lovely.
Yeah, drive over their yards, right? Drive over their yards.
Right.
Okay, well,
Driving.
we get it. Let's see what we can do to help.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sir, you're the only other one left. That's it.
Okay.
Sounds like something I should do too. All right, so we will close communications from citizens. We will move on to the next item, which is to consider a request to transfer ownership of a 2023 Class C liquor license with SDM licenses and Sunday sales. PM permit located at 2101 15 Mile Road from Key Wajip Incorporated to Pake's Kitchen LLC. Would you like to come speak, ma'am?
Good evening. I'm Marcia Aubrey, and I'm paralegal to Makani Oro Makani Shalal and Hindu. And our clients here own this beautiful restaurant, and they are looking to have your approval so that they can take over the liquor license of the seller in this situation. And I'm just here to answer any questions and, of course, support our clients.
Okay, if we have questions, we'll bring you up, but you can take a seat for right now, and we'll let you know if we have anything during deliberations. Anyone else in the audience on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Sarowski.
Resolved that the request to transfer ownership of the 2023 Class C liquor license with SDM license and Sunday sales PM permit located at 2021 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights, Michigan, 48310, from Kiwa Jip Incorporated to Pake's Kitchen LLC be considered for approval.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Mrs. Sarowski, just a matter of clarification. You said 2021 15 Mile Road. You meant 2101 15 Mile Road. Can you confirm that?
I do mean 2101 15 Mile Road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So it's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Sarowski?
Just very briefly, through to the applicant, if I could, or the representative, please. So this is just a transfer, so everything is still, any information from the state, everything's good with the state that we're aware of?
Yes, actually, the state just issued their conditional license yesterday.
Okay, so that's what we needed to, so we're happy with that then. So I have no other concerns. I have been to this restaurant. It is a lovely restaurant. So I have no problems with this at all, and I'm happy to approve this, Mayor Taylor.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Sarowski. Council, anyone else? With no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you for sticking around, and hopefully you enjoyed.
They look forward to having a 20-year award from you guys as well. And they will be serving the best Korean barbecue cuisine, so please stop in and see them.
Here, here.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Next item on our agenda tonight is to consider appointments to Sterling Heights boards and commissions. Anyone want to speak on this item? Council, we've got a appointment to the Board of Ordinance Appeals 2. This is step 2 of the process. Is there anyone who would like to make that appointment?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
resolve to appoint Michael Bargowski to the Board of Ordinance Appeals 2 to a term ending June 30th, 2025, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter subsection 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have the Economic Development Corporation Brownfield Authority and the Elected Officials Compensation Commission. These are mayoral appointments. So on the Economic Development Corporation Brownfield Authority, the liaison from the Building Services Specialist at Velocity, Catherine Quell, we have not been able to identify anybody at this time. The recommendation is to postpone this for a couple of months. So I would say it's September 19th. We can do, well, that's 45 days. Let's do the second meeting. I would entertain a motion to postpone. Well, before I do that. Yeah, let's do, I'd like to entertain a motion to postpone all 3 of them. The Compensation Commission, they are not meeting again until 2025, so there's no immediate rush to appoint anybody there. So if we're going to postpone the one, why don't we postpone both of them? I would entertain a motion to postpone all 3 of those appointments to the second meeting in November.
So moved. Support.
Been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes that portion of our agenda. We've already done communications from citizens. So we'll go on to reports from city administration. Anything tonight, Mr. Vanderpool?
Nothing further, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Koszybski, anything tonight?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay, council, any reports, new business, unfinished business, anything?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke?
couple of things that have come up tonight. I guess I'm going to ask without objection for just a couple ordinance tweaks. One would be to tweak our zoning and zoning code to require recycling at new developments. And I guess so without objection, I'd like the city administration to bring that forward, hopefully within the next 3 months.
Well, I don't know what you mean by requiring recycling at
So new developments have to have trash receptacles on site and have to have a trash contract of some sort. They should also have to have recycling on site and a recycling contract of some sort, in my opinion. So without objection, I'd like to change our ordinances to require that in new developments.
So I guess, Mr. Vanderpool or Mr. Koszybski, do you need more clarity on what new developments means? We need
Mayor, I think, without objection, I think we first need to conduct the research. I mean, there may be some legal issues, hurdles that we need to clear, and at least need to be advised of before we could then formulate an ordinance to bring forward to you. So I'd like to first, within a reasonable period of time, get you the research document you need, and if it proves to be viable, and it probably will, then we could proceed without objection in preparing the ordinance. But, so it's kind of a two-step process.
Okay, yeah, I don't have any objection to it. I mean, I suppose you're talking about commercial, industrial, and residential.
Right, I'll actually clarify. Right now, I'm saying new residential developments, including multifamily, and also PUDs. So like PUDs and new residential construction that's multifamily, we already require trash pickup from those places as part of our site planning. Why wouldn't we also require recycling?
Okay, any objection to having that,
The only thing I'd point out, Mayor, is under the PUDs, you have the ability to require that as one of your options to approve the PUD.
So do we need to change the ordinance to do that as a setting, or can we just make that change internally?
I think those are one of the conditions you can put on a PUD.
Okay, but do we need to set that in the ordinance, or?
Well, I guess going back to Mark's point, I'd like to research that.
Fair enough.
As an answer.
do you want to set a time? Do you want to set a time? Do you want to set a time?
I would argue, Mr. Mayor, that the report hopefully wouldn't take more than 2 months, and then shortly after that, I think an ordinance could be written.
Okay, so report back in 60 days, and then if anything comes up, any PUDs or anything comes up, we can address that at the time, right? Okay, so you said you had a couple of these, Mr.
Yeah,
Radke?
so the second one would be removing the RV parking requirement from PUDs, from all zoning districts. We ignore it. It doesn't really exist in our minds right now. It's silly to have to keep on either having them go before the zoning board to get it removed, or to have us waive it up here. Let's just remove it. I don't think it's that complicated. That would just literally be, I read the ordinance the other day, just striking out like a line. So Mr. Koszewski can sharpen his pencil up and strike a line, leave the whole code in place, just strike that line. I think we'll all be much happier. Without objection, I'd like that to come forward.
I think what it'll be is Clark Andrews using a red line.
There you go.
It might be me.
On Word.
It might be me these days.
But can we do that, and can we bring that back? Any
We can.
objections there?
We can do that.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm sad the Lions didn't get it done on Sunday. It really ruined my weekend, I want to say. I don't know why I'm on the hype train. I know Mr. Yana's on the hype train too, so.
My shirt was from last year. I need a new rally shirt.
That's probably the problem right
I'm
there.
buying one this week.
So with that, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Radke. Anyone else? It's a new week. Oh, Mrs. Zarko.
Hey, I just want to invite everybody to, the state of the city on Friday morning. You're the star of the show there. You're going to tell us all the good things about the city. So if anybody's still watching, 8 o'clock on Friday morning. At the community center.
At the community center.
We've got some good things to talk about. Mr. Vanderpool was hired as an actor.
Don't give up my day job.
He will not give up his day job, nor will I.
Character actor.
Unfortunately. The actors and writers are on strike, and that's why you have to settle for us. No, I thank you for that, Mrs. Zarko. At the community center, at 8 a.m. is the state of the city, and if you can't make it there, it will certainly be streamed and shown on our YouTube channel, and I encourage you to watch it, and I'd appreciate it if you did. So nobody else, anything tonight? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.